stick with my bro. Will it dig it? Yes or no? Here we go on with the show. The Hear Me Out Bro podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hear Me Out Bro podcast. This is episode 25. We did it. We're Silver Jubilee. My name's Clark. I'd like to introduce my brother, Eric.
Hey, everybody.
You can find all our playlists on YouTube by searching for @HMOBP.
If you listen along on the playlists, drop a comment that the Hear Me Out Bro podcast brought you there. That'll help grow the show organically, pick up some more listeners out there in the listening universe.
Yep. And if you have any questions or comments or feedback for us, you can email us at hearmeoutbropodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook at the HMOB, the H-MOB. We post all our links to all the podcasts and other goofy stuff there. It's a good follow, as the kids say. So, for our Silver Jubilee episode, we thought we would feature songs from the silver screen. Hollywood. Actually, how many of these movies were actually from Hollywood?
I don't know. The first two weren't. Second one was. Third one, maybe. The next two, definitely. The next one, no. That's probably about half and half.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, would you like to kick off the list?
Sure. Yeah, all mine are loaded up to the front.
Okay. I do want to add one caveat because some of these are songs and some of them are scores. And obviously there's going to be some glaring omissions.
Sure. Yeah, we can't have 100 songs on the playlist because then our podcasts, which are already too long, will be even much, much longer.
Right. And then I didn't add any John Williams because, he's John Williams. If you're not already familiar with John Williams and his oeuvre, maybe you should be listening to a different podcast.
Maybe you should be watching movies instead of listening to podcasts.
Yeah. So it's there's no Star Wars, there's no Indiana Jones, there's no other just foundational bedrock movie scores on here.
I did have a few things kind of like that, but how do you show that as a reasonably length song on a playlist?
Right. Yeah, that's part of it.
I love Vangelis, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's certain little songs you could do, but some of the stuff from Blade Runner is just that would take up our entire show.
Yeah.
And it's not a very good listen to people talking about a song that's 40 minutes long.
Yeah, and dramatic and
yeah,
kind of sad and atmospheric.
Yeah, for that stuff, just watch and enjoy the movies.
Yeah. It's already in its perfect place. You don't need two yahoos talking about it.
And if you do want to dip into the John Williams catalog, all the Harry Potter films are probably the best place to start. If you can only pick, if Desert Island, if you can only pick one to get into the whole John Williams catalog, I would just start out with Harry Potter. They'll kind of tell you everything you need to know.
Moving along. Most of the scores I added to the playlist are ones that you might not be familiar with, kind of lesser known stuff. And then, just stuff that I thought was interesting and cool.
Cool. You have some honorable mentions for the end.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are good songs from horrible movies.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's some of that. I also wanted to bring up John Williams because as a little kid, I have this weird mental connection thing in my mind. And it came up last week, the cartoon theme songs episode, where like for me, the theme song or like the intro to He-Man like doesn't start where it normally starts. Like it needs the little Filmation little jingle, like little like xylophone little doobly doo sound.
Well, nowadays movies will have like 20 of those freaking things at the beginning.
Yeah, they will. But then like for me, like I think I may have been like 11 and watching Alien over at Neil's house. When the first time I realized that like the 20th Century Fox fanfare wasn't part of the Star Wars theme. That it's like, oh, that's not specific to just Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's in the beginning of other movies too.
Yeah. So like the 20th Century Fox fanfare like has this weird association that I just expect to see like the crawl and like the Star Wars theme. Yeah. And so it's like I don't think I've ever seen any other Filmation cartoons, but it's like if I heard that, I would want to hear He-Man and the Masters of the Universe theme.
Yeah, speaking of like unofficial soundtrack things and the roaring 20th Century Fox Lion, or no, it's the MGM Lion, isn't it?
Yeah,
MGM Lion. So like the little studio, like pre-clip things.
Right.
There's good songs in this movie too, the Wizard of Oz, but there's the unofficial soundtrack to Wizard of Oz where, what do they call it? The Dark Side of the Rainbow, where you play Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and on a specific roar, you start Dark Side of the Moon, and it syncs up to like a lot of the first parts of Wizard of Oz. Yeah. I did it when we were at Rob and Kari's one time because they had the DVD, or they had the movie, and then Rob had Dark Side of the Moon. So
why
it
not?
was interesting. Yeah.
Did you see the Munchkin hang himself off screen?
No. I saw what was purported to be a Munchkin hanging himself.
Oh.
But Munchkins aren't real. Only flying monkeys are real.
That's true. Yeah, I heard that if you sync up AC/DC's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap with the beginning of Zardoz, it does the same thing.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
The same thing as the Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz thing.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'll have to try that sometime.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump into the list?
If we probably should.
Okay. So my first pick is one of the musical refrains. It's the Wild theme from Local Hero.
So good.
Yeah. It just totally sets the mood for that movie, you know, just you can just sense the highland and the heather and the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. And when I started watching years and years later, when I started watching Top Gear, famously, like the three guys have only ever agreed on two things. The only car that all three of them don't hate or don't not like is the Ford Mondeo.
Uh-huh.
That it's like two of them will really like one car, and the third one will totally hate it, or, you know, some combination.
Yeah.
And then it's like the one car that they can all agree on that they all just don't mind or whatever.
Yeah.
Is the Ford Mondeo. And then the only movie that they all agree on is like the greatest movie of all time is Local Hero.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's so good.
Trying to see what the Ford Mondeo is in the States. I don't think we have an equivalent.
Yeah, the one I drove in Europe was an estate, aka a station wagon.
Uh-huh.
But then it's like it was an estate. It was one of the biggest cars I've ever driven.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was this monster station wagon. It was like, holy crap. Yeah, we tried to get like a Jetta, like a Volkswagen Jetta, and they didn't have any available. So they upgraded us to this Ford Mondeo.
Oh,
it was like the back seats are like enormous. They have like 3 feet of leg room. And then like the way back, like the, hatch, whatever, the station.
Thing,
the station wagon part of it, even with the seats like folded up or like up, not like folded down, like an average sized person could lay down like lengthwise in the back.
Oh, man.
Like not even diagonal, just like,
yeah,
it was nuts. So huge.
The Ford Mondeo has been sold in the United States as the Ford Contour, Mercury Mystique, and Ford Fusion.
Oh, there you go.
So it is one of those world platform vehicles.
Right.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah. What's the director's name? Bill Forsyth?
Local Hero. Bill Forsyth, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I was going to fall in love with a mermaid, I would want it to be like in the Bahamas or like some tropical waters.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the northeast coast of Scotland?
No. No. Have you ever seen that Seinfeld episode?
No.
You haven't? Where George gets out of the water.
Oh, yes. Okay. I thought there was a mermaid episode. Yes, the shrinkage.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. My next pick is a super classic.
Yeah.
We're staying on across the Atlantic for this one. This is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah, great movie. Classic soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ennio Morricone is such a genius. Like there's no other word. But it's like if you wrote it out on paper, like, yeah, it's going to have like all these kind of weird sound effects and like weird singing and weird
voices and stuff.
Yeah. Like if you wrote it all out, you'd be like, I don't know. But like as a piece, it's just like, it's iconic. Like it's perfect. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one that I went to add to the playlist and it was already checkmarked. I was like, okay, cool.
Oh, man. Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, the guitar player on that one is Bruno Battisti Diamario. And like, there's a lot of Italian guitars out there that would be really good for that kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
But he plays mostly Fenders.
Whoa.
Which were probably pretty expensive in Italy. So he's probably a top studio cat at the time, I'm sure.
Right. And it shows. I mean, it's just, yeah, there are some things where it's just like that became like the soundtrack for that genre. Red Dead Redemption, the video game, like takes cues from that movie and that soundtrack. Like it's like you just play that song and it's just like, oh yeah, it's we're
the first one or the second one?
I know the first one for sure. I don't know. It's been a while since I played the second one, and I didn't play that much of it. I got to revisit.
Yeah, because actually the second one, the music is done by Daniel Lanois, who like I totally love.
Nice.
He worked with Brian Eno a lot, and he's famous for producing a lot of U2's bigger albums.
Nice.
And he did a lot of stuff with Peter Gabriel and just everybody. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, on and on. But yeah, his own music is like great in its own right, not just the stuff he records and puts his signature sound on.
Right.
He was also a member of the early new wave group Martha and the Muffins.
Whoa.
Okay, my next pick is The Byrds' Ballad of Easy Rider. Jack Nicklaus pretending like he's never seen a joint before. Now that's acting. Yeah, I like that song. It's cheesy. It's a good song for a movie.
Yeah.
But my favorite version of that song is the Fairport Convention version, which is on their album Unhalf Breaking. They do a killer version of that song. And when I saw Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives, they played that song, did an acoustic version of it. That was really good.
Nice. That's a good band name too. Yeah, and it fits with that movie really well.
Yeah, it does.
I had a friend and coworker years ago that grew up in Southern California and had to ride his motorcycle like an hour from the town he lived in to go see that movie opening night.
Oh, cool.
And
was he all paranoid going home afterwards?
He wasn't paranoid, but he was all just like bummed out.
Oh,
just like,
yeah,
man,
that's it.
Like,
it's a real downer movie.
Totally. And it was just like, yeah, he totally like grokked the movie and like it affected him. Like it was so like he was such the target audience for that movie.
Oh, man.
And it was just like, he was all the man riding home.
Okay, my next pick. Oh, man. Are we on a downer tangent now?
If we can get through one more, I think it'll start to pick up.
Yeah, it'll pick up after this one. But yeah, we had to like restart the show because we went on like a little bit of a tirade. But I love this movie. I love this song. I wanted to have a Ry Cooder penned tune on here.
Nice.
Because Ry Cooder has done so many great soundtracks. And, you know, everybody's going to say, well, you got to have Paris, Texas. It's like, yeah. But to me, like, I like this song. And I don't know, I won't comment more on it. But just like the theme of the song, it's like, I don't know, there's stuff going on now. It's like, are we really right back where we started with all this crap? But anyways, so this is Ry Cooder and Freddie Fender singing Across the Borderline from the movie The Border. Okay. I'm trying not to cry. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be angry.
Sorry.
The world.
Freddie Fender always gets to me. And
he's got such a cool voice.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm totally crying here. Sorry. Bad podcasting.
No. I've teared up on the show before.
Yeah, you know, it's like all these poor people that are just pawns with people in the ivory towers. It's like, you know, it's like they're not serving anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw this movie. It came out in 1982, and I saw it back then, and man, it really, really affected me. But then, like, seeing on the news and stuff, like when they shut CBP One app or whatever down, it's like, it's just freaking heartbreaking. You know, it's like we really can't sort these things out in this day and age.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I'm going to put
not to get too political or anything, but
I'm going to put one foot on the soapbox. And like the Rio Grande, like the governor of Texas is claiming that the Rio Grande is not navigable water. So he can put up the like fence with the rolling buoys to keep people from coming across. And like
man.
people have lost their lives trying to climb over this fence and like gotten stuck because it's like, yeah, you created like a drowning hazard for political reasons.
It's like there's no good solution yet. I mean, how long has this been going on?
Yeah.
There's not some way to sort it out. Yeah, just where like the little guy is the one who gets the break.
Yeah. Yeah. And the peasants and the peons and the little guy are always the one that has to take the heat.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Border?
Mm-mm.
It's pretty good. And it does tie in with my previous pick because Jack Nicholson plays one of the corrupt Border Patrol agents.
Nice.
Or not so nice, but then he has a change of heart at the end, toward the end of the movie.
Right. I mean, cool, because he's a great actor.
Yeah.
Or at least, he was back then.
Okay. My next pick is from the movie Footloose, and it's Let's Hear It for the Boy.
A little change of pace.
And so we've talked about movie themes kind of so far, but so this is one that's more part of a soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much the rest of these are going to be, well, themes and parts of soundtracks, but mostly parts of soundtracks. So this is from the movie Footloose. Let's Hear It for the Boy.
Yeah, there were a few things I wanted to talk about when I saw this on the playlist.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that movie's cheesy, but it's also really good. And
it is pretty good.
It's like, it has, like, I think that's just straight from the movie. Like, there is a montage in the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
with
Yeah.
that
Sung
song.
by the incomparable Denise Williams.
Right. And like Kevin Bacon, like, deserves every accolade for like being an awesome dude and like making that movie what it was. But like Chris Penn is totally awesome in that movie. Like, he's so cool.
Yeah.
He's like the farm boy, but he's like, he's learning new things. It's cool. Yeah. And it's like,
I was looking at his farm and it's a little ramshackled.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he spent less time dancing and more time like cleaning up, his farm wouldn't look so run down. But
yeah, farms get like that.
They do. They don't have to.
But yeah, it's like that movie really made me I was already a Kevin Bacon fan when I saw that movie. But like that movie made me a Chris Penn fan.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like a lot of times you think, man, I grew up in a really horrible town or like things were so strict, but
right.
Hey, at least you got to dance.
It's true.
Could have been worse.
Yep.
Yeah, and like I think we've talked about it before here. Like, there's a lot of movies, and I knew the songs and stuff just because you couldn't escape them on the radio back in the 80s.
Right.
But there was a lot of movies that I never actually saw because I was, quote unquote, too cool.
Right.
So I started going back and revisiting them. And Footloose was one of them. But I saw that quite a while ago. That wasn't one where I was like, I need to make a concentrated effort to like see all these movies that everybody was talking about back in the day.
Right.
The two were Top Gun and probably could have had Danger Zone on here. We'll just say Danger Zone from Top Gun is an honorable mention.
Right.
Another one, we talked about Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yep.
Last week. It wasn't really a follow-up, but it had the same guy starring in it. Was the movie Streets of Fire. And it's a terrible movie. But like Rick Moranis is in there. We talked about Rick Moranis last week also. Right. And Willem Dafoe's in there. He plays this biker gang guy that kidnaps the singer girl, and is really terrible movie, but it has.
How could that be bad though? Like that sounds on paper that sounds awesome.
Well, if you think it sounds awesome, give it a watch.
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
worth seeing what it's about, but it's pretty strange.
Like Willem Dafoe is like a biker gang leader. Like, come on.
Oh,
that
man.
sounds so awesome. Like, just give that guy a role where he could just like devour the furniture. Like, come on. That's so awesome.
So, yeah, it has Michael Paré, who is also the guy from Eddie and the Cruisers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a song in there called Sorcerer.
Whoa.
And it's not sung by Stevie Nicks, but Stevie Nicks wrote it. And if you listen to it, you can totally tell it's a Stevie Nicks song.
That sounds cool.
But the big hit from there was I Can Dream About You. And they had it sung by this doo-wop group in the movie and in the video. But it's actually a Dan Hartman song. And Dan Hartman was in the Edgar Winter band.
Whoa.
Like Frankenstein era. He's the guy singing on Free Ride.
Oh, yeah.
So that's Dan Hartman.
He was also the voice of Lionel Hutz, the lawyer on The Simpsons, and had
was he?
many iconic SNL sketches like Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. And
was he really?
No, That was a different Hartman. Sorry.
Yeah, so I Can Dream About You was like his big hit. He had some like disco songs and stuff, but like that became a big hit from the movie. But the movie was kind of tanked at the box office. So this next one is one besides Top Gun, where I did make a concentrated effort to watch a movie that I always thought would be super lame.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out it's actually a pretty good movie. This is The Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, it's pretty cheesy, but like, you know, sometimes you need some cheese. Like,
yeah, a little cheese goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's like
nobody puts baby in a corner.
Right. Yeah, there's that famous line. But it's like those two actors are both just like, you know, when I was a cynical teenager, it was like, me. And it's like, they just have like so much charisma. Like, you're the a-hole if you don't like them. Like,
well, yeah. So it's teenage dance movies. Mm-hmm. We got Bacon. We got Swayze.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the logical evolution, like Dirty Dancing shows what can happen if you just let teenagers like run loose all summer.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, maybe the town council in Footloose was right to not hold dances, because I mean, we can see what happens if you just let teens run wild.
Yeah, but if you give
up the dancing and the, you know,
if you give up being the stodgy, repressive mayor of a small town and move to the Pacific Northwest, you might get to hang out with Bigfoot. So there's the flip side.
That's true. But
yeah, because
maybe Bigfoot got tired of all the teens coming and partying in the woods, and like leaving beer bottles everywhere and garbage. So he like talked to his mayor friend and said, "Hey, man, you really got to like get these teens under control. You know, they're like coming in my living room and the headlights on and the music blaring. And, you know, I'm just trying to kick back and enjoy a little peace and quiet."
Yeah.
Yeah. As is with everything, like the answer usually lies somewhere in the middle.
True.
Between no dancing and dancing with complete abandon. Yeah, letting yourself lose control, as I believe the lyrics say.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to become a maniac.
Well, yeah, even if you're dancing, you want to maintain a little bit of control.
True.
Maniac is another honorable mention.
I know. That's why I brought it up.
Okay, enough of that. So, yeah, there's some goofy, fun movies out there. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes it's good to go revisit a classic instead of seeing what the latest garbage is out there to watch.
True.
So this one, we've already featured a song from this
Speaking of
album.
classics.
Great soundtrack.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is probably 100 times bigger a soundtrack than it was a movie.
Oh, easily.
I mean, this is where probably everybody first got exposed to that Jamaican reggae sound.
Yeah.
So this is Jimmy Cliff with The Harder They Come.
Such a good song.
Oh, man. It's classic.
Yeah.
That was one that got played a lot in our house growing up.
Yeah.
Great album.
Yeah. The whole soundtrack is like, it's incredible. Like Toots and the Maytals.
And the movie's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard to find and didn't show everywhere. But yeah, I mean, man, what a great soundtrack where the soundtrack's bigger than the movie.
Yeah. Desmond Decker.
Classic.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. And then Jimmy
Right place
Cliff.
at the right time, the right situation.
Mm-hmm.
Great songs.
Yeah. It's like I can't start listening to that album without listening to the whole thing. And then like, oh, well, I'm also going to listen to this Toots and the Maytals album and some Desmond Decker and some Jimmy Cliff. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like it just continues
spins
to grow.
out.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, I guess I'm listening to Rocksteady and reggae for like
Yeah.
the
I mean, I
next
could have
week
put
and a half.
Pressure Drop
Yeah.
or, you know, Many Rivers to Cross or,
Oh man. Yeah, Many
Great
Rivers
songs.
to Cross. Like if you want to see me tear up on the pod or hear
man.
me tear up on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Many Rivers to Cross.
Yeah, I thought I'd just go with the straight classic title track.
Yeah, perfect.
Jimmy Cliff. Yeah. So this next one is another one that's a movie, but it's pretty much an album. It's like a rock opera kind of that got turned into a movie.
Right.
Or happened at the same time concurrently, or I don't know.
Probably not quite on the scale as The Harder They Come, but like I bet more people have heard the soundtrack than have seen the movie.
Yeah, and also this is one that got played a lot, like probably next to AC/DC and Permanent Waves. This album probably got played the most, like in our bedroom, like on our record player.
Could see that.
Yeah. So this is from Quadrophenia by The Who, and this is The Real Me. Killer song.
Yeah.
I've seen that movie a few times.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was kind of a mod kind of kid and
Yeah,
punker kid. And
I was going to bring that up, that luckily we as Americans living on the West Coast never had to make that choice as
right.
strongly, whether to be a mod or whether to be a rocker.
Yeah.
There was room for both.
Where you could be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, like, I think the first time I saw it was like, oh man, like the scooters are cool and their outfits are cool and like they're all out having fun and like there's no parents around hardly and this and that. And like, I don't know, that seemed really appealing. But like I saw it just maybe a couple of years ago and it's like, man, these guys are jerks. This guy's friends are all a bunch of assholes. You know, it's like, so like, I don't know. Since we're old men, we can like dish out wisdom And so like never get like so wrapped up in a scene or like a fashion or like something that you're interested in or into. Never get so wrapped up in the pursuit of that interest to where you don't realize that all the people around you are assholes.
Right.
Because that can happen. And don't be afraid to admit it. And like take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like
don't end up in the shrink's office because you don't understand why your life is shitty and why girls treat you bad or whatever, you know, like
right.
whatever it is, like don't get so hung up on some kind of identity even.
Right. Well, the flag that you're waving might mean something to you, but the guy standing next to you waving the same flag, it might mean something completely different and terrible.
Right. So just be a little more reserved, keep your head on a swivel, have some balance in your life.
Right.
Don't take things too serious.
Right.
Don't get caught up to where like if you have to let go of an identity, that's just going to like completely deflate and turn your world upside down.
Yep.
Like our young guy in Quadrophenia, he could have walked away from it all.
Yeah.
And at the end, he did, you know, sent the scooter off the cliff. He got to see the real, you know, Sting's character. He got to see he was just like a dude that got bossed around by his boss. And, you know, Ace Face had a crappy life just like everybody else.
Right.
Even though he was the king of the scene. Don't put too much stock into social constructs.
Yeah.
But the Who are kick-ass band.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's like nobody builds up a song, breaks down a song, and then builds back up a song.
Yeah.
Better than the Who.
Yeah, and I think Quadrophenia, I think what I was just talking about is really the message that Pete Townsend was trying to portray with Quadrophenia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could be wrong. You know, I'm not a mind reader, but it seems to me like that's kind of the message that he wanted to get across.
Right.
Instead of it being like this cultural, cultish thing.
Right. Which has become.
Right.
Yeah, like it became the iconic, like, mod movie.
But even with that, don't look beyond the message that's there.
Right.
That was intended. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one, I really wanted to have Stranglehold.
Oh, man.
Because that song just rules.
It rips.
But this song is one of the greatest, like, to use this song in a soundtrack, this was used to such great effect as this being the opening of the movie. And so I just included the opening of the movie with it because like you're sitting there in the theater, the lights go down and then you hear this and it's like, yes, I'm in, you know,
Yeah.
Keep your hands inside the ride at all times. And
yep.
So
nice.
This is from Dazed and Confused. This is the intro with Aerosmith's Sweet Emotion.
Yeah. That movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's
so good.
Like that's the one like throwback movie where they just nailed it. And that's Rincon Valley Junior High and, you know, like the whole 70s.
Right.
Just how it was to grow up. Like they totally nailed it with that movie. Like I watched that movie and I could like point out each character in the yearbook, basically.
Uh-huh.
I love that movie.
So were you Matthew McConaughey's character?
No, I was like the young dorky brother.
Oh man.
No, I was so far from Matthew McConaughey. But I knew dudes like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew dudes like that, and it's like I knew Ben Affleck's character. I knew way too many dudes that were like that.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, that dude? I hate that dude.
Oh, man. Or you're afraid of that dude.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
I don't know how it
he's a
was for
dick.
you, but like when I was going from
Also.
Binkley to Rincon Valley Junior High,
Mm-hmm.
everybody told me, oh, yeah, the ninth graders, they'll make you put peanut butter in your armpits and run around the track and then eat it. You know, like stuff like that. It's like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to go there.
Right.
It's like, none of that happened. It's like, why do people hype each other up like that, you know?
Well,
I don't know. I guess there was some stuff
there was.
like that, you know?
Like I was going
Kids
to bring
ended
up
up in lockers and trash cans and
oh, totally. There was always
getting beaten up. And
you always heard about somebody who got a swirly. Well, I was going to bring up like Mila Jovovich was in that intro for just like a second.
Yeah.
And then like one of my other celebrity crushes, Parker Posey.
Parker Posey.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, I love Parker Posey in almost everything, but she plays like the meanest character, like probably even meaner than Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Like
well, there was roles like that though. It's like, I don't know if it's like a Lord of the Flies thing or something where there's like, where people just fall into that mold or like settle into that mold.
Right.
Like the lowest point of energy, point of reaction. But I don't know. But I think every town kids growing up in the 70s could be like, oh yeah, I knew that dude.
Right. Parker Posey's like the head of the like cheerleader squad or whatever. And like, so she's like hazing the next year's prospects or whatever. And like squirting ketchup and mustard all over them. Like making them roll around on the ground or whatever, calling them piggies and like squirting them with ketchup and mustard. Like on a hot summer day. So it's like, it's akin to the peanut butter in the armpits.
To the peanut butter thing. Yeah. And I'm sure that did happen places and maybe it even happened at Rincon Valley Junior High. That's why this, you know, like,
right.
For all those urban legends, there is something that started it.
Yeah.
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 Such a good because I got picked on a ton in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had glasses from 1st grade to 5th grade. So I was just, you know, like the nerd kid that everybody picked on. And I dressed like Buddy Holly or whatever. Like I was all into the 50s.
Uh-huh.
High tops and plaid shirts and chinos and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But the summer of 6th grade, the Lynches moved in next door. And so I started hanging out with the Lynch brothers.
Right.
And they were like, what, kids pick on you? They're like, no. They totally like put me through the dojo.
Nice.
Yeah. Mike had this friend, Tom Strong, who was like the terrifying, like my bodyguard stoner dude, you know?
Nice.
They said, okay, now when you get to junior high, you're going to walk down the hall and you don't get out of the way for anybody. Like if it's a 9th grader in your way, you just bump their shoulder and you don't step aside for anybody.
Yeah.
So like my first couple days of being in 7th grade was like walking down the halls with Mike Lynch and Tom Strong and just like facing off with 9th graders. Like what, you know, and they'd look at Mike and Tom and be like, yeah. so like, man. Yeah, after 7th grade, like I never got picked on ever again.
See, my junior high experience was different. Like I didn't know any older kids.
Well, you knew me.
I knew you, but like you were in.
Well, not there at school with you.
Right.
Yeah. I think I just told you if anybody like gets in your face, just punch them in the nose.
Right. But it's like by then it was like junior high or like all schools had like a 0 tolerance policy for fighting.
Uh-huh.
So it's like you were, no matter what, like if you got caught fighting, like you'd get in trouble.
And it's okay to get in trouble. I know mom and dad didn't like it.
Right. But see, you know, I was the younger brother. And so it was like, I didn't want to get in trouble with mom and dad. I didn't want to get in trouble at school.
Right.
Like I had internalized
you were
all
a good kid.
Authoritarian bull crap. And so it was
you weren't a delinquent like I was.
Yeah. And it's like, I should have been much more of a delinquent.
There's a time and a place for delinquency.
Right.
Especially when it's Lord of the Flies situation. The Dazed and Confused soundtrack has a lot of great stuff on it. And the Dogtown and Z-Boys soundtrack also has a lot of great stuff on it. And then the Hollywooded version of the Dogtown and Z-Boys movie that was dramatized, right. Lords of Dogtown, has a lot of those same great songs in it. But like, they probably have like 60 to 80% of the same songs on their soundtracks.
Okay.
So there's a ton of overlap. But one song that is on Lords of Dogtown that isn't on Dazed and Confused is this next one. It's Turn to Stone by Joe Walsh from Lords of Dogtown.
Yeah, Joe Walsh is one of those guys who, because of the time I grew up, like I had some negative connotations for. Like that song where he's talking about like his Maserati.
Oh, right.
Like,
life's been good to me.
Yeah. Right. It's like I can appreciate that song, but it's like that was my introduction to him. Or it was like he was really like, I don't know, playing up his voice.
Well, I mean, he is who he is.
He is who he is, but it was just like, I don't know. That song always kind of like, no thanks.
Yeah. Well, that was like peak cocaine or something.
Yeah, totally. I hear older stuff by him, and it's like, dude. And it's like, when I tried to get into the Eagles, it was like, yeah, he's kind of the coolest one.
Yeah, he kind of is.
Like, all my favorite Eagles songs were ones he wrote.
Yeah, like this next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, for me, Joe Walsh, like, for me, it was James Gang was my introduction to, like, the Joe Walsh thing. So, like, to me, it was, like, great.
Right.
And, like, yeah, what a cool dude. And, like, listening to The Who on almost every Who album from a certain time forward, including Quadrophenia, Pete Townsend would have been playing a Gretsch White Falcon through a Tweed Fender Bandmaster.
Mm-hmm.
And that Gretsch Falcon and Tweed Bandmaster were given to him by Joe Walsh, who said, "This is your sound right here. Here."
Dang.
Gave him those. And that's all he played on every album after that.
Dang.
And I don't know if both of them, at least one of them, quite possibly both of them, Jimmy Page's number 1 and number 2 Les Paul, were both from Joe Walsh. Like, he has this habit of just like giving people instruments and they become like their thing. Like, you know, like, oh, I have this guitar and I think it would be like, I think you need this. This is like you.
Nice.
You know, he's like a matchmaker.
Yeah. Or like, I was going to say like a kingmaker, but it's like, well, these people are already icons. He's kind of like the artificer.
The royal matchmaker.
Yeah. He's like the artificer or like the armorer. That's like, oh yeah, here. It's
here's your Excalibur.
Yeah.
I'll pull it out of the stone for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That sword's holding you back. You need to use this one.
So anyways, this next one of the great movies.
Oh man.
The Warriors. My friend always used to tease me with this intro part here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Joe Walsh in the City, which is also on the second Eagles' greatest hits, but it's a Joe Walsh song, pretty much.
Yeah, this is one that I went to add to the playlist and saw it was already checkmarked.
Oh,
I was
man.
like, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it'd be worth having back-to-back Joe Walsh.
Yeah, totally.
Great song.
Yeah, great movie. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love everything
Oh,
about
it's so good. Yeah. They really didn't need to remake it. I don't know why they did.
I never watched the remake just out of...
You didn't? The one with Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
Gangs of New York?
Oh, that's not...
That's not a remake of The Warriors?
No.
Are you
I thought-
sure?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a remake. They just put it in a different time period or something.
No. No, I thought they
Ah.
did remake The Warriors in the 90s or something.
Oh, I hope not.
Or early 2000s. I thought they did. Maybe I'm thinking of Red Dawn.
My friend Sean, this bass player from Texas,
Mm-hmm.
he was from Dallas. He used to be in a band called The Jibe, which was kind of gained a little traction in the grunge era.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were going to school in Hawaii, we both played in the pop ensemble. And whenever I'd wear a Warriors hat or T-shirt, he would do that.
Oh, nice.
Warriors, come out and play.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the actor who played that guy, that was his thing. Because he plays a Weasley gang leader. But, he was a theater kid in New York. So he totally got bullied. And one of the neighborhood bully kids would do that to him. And it was always super creepy and intimidating. So he was
yeah,
oh, I got an idea for what we could do.
I know what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And
Yeah,
so we,
as bad as we talked about growing up in Rincon Valley was
oh, man.
at least we didn't grow up in New York in the 70s.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. John Milius will show up again on the playlist.
Okay.
He's one of my favorite screenwriters of all time. The dude is just modern day Teddy Roosevelt. Just one of those total man's man kind of dudes. It's
man.
He wrote so many epic movies and TV shows and stuff. John Goodman's character from The Big Lebowski is based on John Milius.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. If you're not already into John Milius, look him up. He's a pretty entertaining dude. He's had his hands on some pretty epic pies.
Nice.
Yeah, he wrote the screenplay because he had read the Anabasis, this historical fiction, actual ancient historical fiction, the Odyssey and the Iliad kind of thing.
Yeah.
Epic tale kind of thing. The Anabasis about some Greek mercenaries that were hired by a Persian prince that was vying for power, who suddenly died. And so these 10,000 Greek mercenaries were suddenly stranded in the middle of Persia, 1,000 miles from home, surrounded by enemies.
That's what The Warriors was based on?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And
so The Warriors itself was a remake in a way.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, there's just so much rad stuff about that, but the production of that movie, and then the movie's so rad, and just how it all came together, and then New York City banned it for a while.
Oh man.
After it opened, they're yeah, no.
Speaking of in that earlier Joe Walsh one with Lords of Dogtown, they play that song when Jay Adams is beginning his downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And when I lived on Maui, Jay Adams was in jail there. But the first time Jay Adams like did serious jail time, it was after a suicidal tendencies show. He like pushed somebody down, but then like a bunch of other people jumped in and like beat the guy up, and I think they killed him or something.
Whoa.
But since he was involved with it, he like had to do some jail time.
Right.
And so this next song is Suicidal Tendencies. This is Institutionalized from the Repo Man soundtrack. This is a classic one.
Yep.
Oh, man. I think every kid's felt that way at one point or another.
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I never got into those guys. But
Yeah, it's just a classic song and
I have felt
classic
that exact
soundtrack and movie. And
yeah.
that was the first like big punk rock thing to like go prime time, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for better or worse.
Right.
A lot of good early hardcore on there.
Yeah. Like the first punk rock thing that was actually punk rock and not like.
Well, besides like the British stuff, but yeah,
Well, yeah, but like.
Yeah, it was felt a little more like grassrooty or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike the Chips episode we were talking about 2 weeks ago.
Right. It's a little more legit than that.
Yeah.
All right. Staying with young, angsty people and high school and whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's like such a thread here, I guess. Like, how come all my movies are, I don't know. I didn't realize there was such a thread. Anyways, this next one is 4 songs. Like the last 3, I couldn't just pick one.
Uh-huh.
Because we always talk about my friend Tristan, but one more time, me and Tristan, this was our favorite movie. And it's still one of my favorite movies. It's classic.
Oh, well,
and
you got one more in here.
well, we got Emilio Estevez in this one. And
There's one more in here.
Charlie
Before we get
Sheen's
to
in
it.
the next movies. But yeah, there's one more. But so,
okay.
yeah, these next 4 all feature movies that have Clint Howard in them.
Oh, okay. Now I see the thread.
Yeah, so this is the thread. So punk rock in movies. This is probably the first punk rock to ever really be featured in a movie.
Right.
Like even before Sex Pistols and all that business. So this is the Ramones, Do You Want to Dance from Rock and Roll High School.
Nice.
Oh, man. So much good stuff there.
Totally.
The Ramones and Clint Howard.
Together at
It's like-
last.
It's getting better than that. Yeah, the Ramones could play anything and it would sound great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was watching a thing about all the covers that Motorhead did
Uh-huh.
and how Lemmy and those guys could just make any song theirs.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
same
like-
thing with the Ramones.
Yeah. Like they played one of their examples was an Iron Maiden cover. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean it's an awesome Iron Maiden song, but like
Now
It's
it's a Motorhead song.
yeah, now it's a badass Motorhead song.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they could cover David Bowie and like, it's a good David Bowie song. But it's like, dude, it's a totally rad Motorhead song.
Well, eventually we'll do a favorite covers song episode.
Yeah. Man, that's going to be hard.
Yeah,
That might be our longest playlist.
it could be.
One more thing before we get
Yeah.
off Rock and Roll High School.
Okay.
Listen to more Ramones. Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody that can hear my
Yeah.
voice, listen to more Ramones. Like,
Yeah, you'll be better off.
yeah.
There's
Okay.
one thing you can change to improve your life. That's easy.
Yeah.
Just like throwing some more Ramones.
Yeah. And
Add Ramones.
if you feel like breaking stuff, that's a natural feeling. Like tip over a few garbage cans. Like
Just add Ramones.
Just add Ramones.
Okay, so this is from me, my friend Tristan's favorite cheesy movie, and it fully features, it's probably Clint Howard's best role. This is the movie The Wraith. The song is Where's the Fire by Tim Feehan. And this video kind of gives the little rundown of the whole movie preview kind of thing.
Nice.
Oh, man.
So good.
Some good AOR.
Totally. So, did you ever play Halo? Any of the Halo games?
A little bit.
There was a vehicle that the bad guys drove. You could like hop on like a little hover bike, little craft thing that was like streamlined, had like a tinted little windshield, and was kind of a dark pearlescent metallic purple paint job.
Interesting.
Called the Wraith.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Must be a nod to the movie.
Maybe. That's
apparently that was like a Chrysler show car, like concept car.
Mm-hmm.
And they used it in the movie. Like it never really took off as a concept show car.
Right.
But they've had it on Jay Leno's garage a few times.
Really?
And yeah, like somebody owns the original one, like kind of restored it. Apparently it's a total piece of crap.
Speaking of iconic vehicles, we forgot to mention Captain America's bike from Easy Rider.
Oh, right.
And how like right after the movie,
how iconic it was.
Yeah, how iconic it was. And then like someone stole it right after the movie like wrapped production.
Oh, man.
And it's never been seen since.
Yeah, there's plenty of replicas.
Yeah, there's plenty of replicas, but like the original's never been found.
I thought it was in the Hard Rock Cafe or something lame like that.
No, there's probably a replica in the Hard Rock Cafe. But yeah, the original has never been found. It's lost to history. Which is
also
crazy because
the
like,
character,
like old, I think almost all of the Ed Roth cars have been found.
Yeah, I think most of them, the ones that weren't destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one, like, I mean, we saw Clint Howard in there. Yep. Probably one of his better roles. So great.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy playing Gutter Boy with the mohawk.
Yeah.
That's not the same guy who was the singer for Pain, as we talked about last week.
Right. Same look, though.
Yeah, same look. Okay, so this next one is also from The Wraith, and this is right out of the movie, but this is Ozzy Osbourne with Secret Loser. And I had to include it in here just so we could get a little Jakey Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is from the movie with the movie audio.
Nice. Lose the race, lose your car.
Yeah, and they put a disabler. Clint Howard's kind of like a little tech savvy, like Motorhead guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can put a disabler on your vehicles. If you try and run, they'll shut you down.
Nice.
And they kept the guy's girlfriend there as collateral, just in case he tried to run.
Man, somebody's got to stand up to those guys.
Oh, man, somebody. I don't know who, but got to be somebody out there.
Gotta be.
So my guess is that Jakey Lee and Bob Daisley wrote that song, even though they weren't credited for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, The Wraith is a cool movie and stuff. Well, I mean, it's a dumb movie, but it's a funny,
it's a cool movie. Dumb movie.
But I'm thinking the only reason that it ended up in the movie is because they gave Sharon Osbourne enough money.
Could be.
So that one was a car race with a guy, like, they have a bunch of races in that movie, but like that race had the the movie that had the music in the movie as it was showed it in the movie. And I found this video that actually like cut out the movie part and just put in the actual song, which is way better because this song totally kicks butt. This is also from the Wraith soundtrack. And before we play this last one from the Wraith, there's also a song on there from Ian Hunter and another one from Bonnie Tyler, which I didn't include, and like a few other like really good songs.
Dude.
Like really good solid AOR soundtrack songs that all ended up in this goofy movie.
You know it's a strong soundtrack if Bonnie Tyler gets left off the list. Like,
right.
Holy crap. Yeah.
So this next song is probably my favorite song from the movie, just because it's part of the finale race and it's such a kick butt song. It totally rocks.
Yeah, these guys.
This is Lion Never Surrender from the Wraith soundtrack. So that just shows the Wraith vehicle taking out all the guys in the gang one at a time, picking them off during races.
So good. And like Lion is probably like the iconic like American power metal band.
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, like you never really hear about them anymore, but it's like they were on a bunch of soundtracks and it's like they totally ripped.
And and everybody knows White Lion, which was like
hair metal.
Super cheese. Yeah.
Glam metal. But Lion was just like straightforward like power metal. Like, you know, they weren't thrash. Like metal had already kind of shattered into a bunch of genres at that point. But it was like, you know, they played like a style that was like way more popular in Europe and like still continues to this day. But like, they kind of remind me a little bit of they're like heavier, more power metal-y, but like a lot of that stuff is a little bit reminiscent of like Whitesnake. And speaking of like people not getting their due, I put it up on the HMOB that John Sykes passed away the other day. Yeah, I saw that, which is a big bummer. Totally. And we haven't really been able to cover John Sykes on our podcast yet, but we're gonna have we'll have a Thin Lizzy episode that he'll probably show up on, and I have a whole Tigers of Pantang one to do. Nice. And my favorite Tigers of Pantang was when John Sykes was in the band. That's when they were like firing on all cylinders. So that completes it for my list. Nice. Once I started going down the Wraith rabbit hole, I was just like, oh man, I can't leave any of these out. Right. So with that, I'll pass the baton on to you. All righty. To run through all your favorites. Yeah. So my end of the playlist is a little different. Only a little. There's some crossovers. And like I mentioned earlier, like Ennio Morricone and Joe Walsh were going to be on my list. And then, we'd even talked about it before, but I totally forgot about The Harder They Come. Like, so many great ones. And before the show also, we talked about, like I had left off, I was going to put on Making Time by The Action from the Rushmore soundtrack. Yeah. I was like, I can't put anything Rushmore on here because Clark's going to want to have Rushmore. Yeah. And I thought about it. And I saw that when I signed in to YouTube, I saw that you had searched for Making Time. And I was like, oh, okay, sweet. That'll give us a chance to talk about it. So I didn't look at your end of the playlist. So I thought you had actually added it. So it's kind of a, what's his name? The author. I thought you did it. Yeah. He wrote like the classic story where like the couple, like he sells his heirloom watch to buy her a hair comb. And right. She cuts her hair. Cuts off all her hair. Yeah. And sells it to buy him a chain for his watch, his heirloom watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Kind of like that.
I did have some other stuff on here, like some more like proto doom metal-y kind of stuff, but like as I was researching it, like I wasn't a big fan of the movie, but I liked a lot of the music that was in the movie. But as I was researching it, like I had an inkling that the director of the movie could have been a total scumbag, but then it like turned out that he was a total scumbag.
Right.
So like I didn't want to like give any kind of shout out to that or anything. So I just left that off the list, but we'll cover that from a different angle another time.
Perfect. Yeah, and we discussed it before we started recording Rushmore soundtrack.
Yeah.
And so we're going to give Rushmore its own episode because that whole soundtrack is just fantastic. Like
each of the songs on there is like a good point to take off a discussion on too.
Yeah, and then like the soundtrack itself and like its connection and collection for the movie is like worth talking about as well.
But it's not perfect.
What?
In my book. They came close to perfection.
Okay.
But maybe it was like one of those Navajo blanket things, you know, where you like skip a stitch just to like show that you're not like a god or whatever.
Yeah.
So the Rushmore soundtrack did include a Faces song, but it was one that wasn't sung by Rod Stewart. So that might have been like their misstitch there.
You don't have the lights on in your studio? I can't really tell what that is. I think your bias is showing.
My bias is showing.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, let me fix my lighting here. Good call. There we go.
Maybe zip up your track too.
Hey, I love
your
Ronnie
bias,
Lane.
Your bias is showing.
I love Ronnie Lane, and I'm glad they included that song, and it was the perfect song. But they could have included Two Faces songs on the soundtrack.
Okay.
As a I don't know, concession.
Yeah. They could have had their cake and ate it too.
Yeah. More frosting.
Man. All right. Well, I don't know how to segue out of that into this. As much as I love The Warriors, one movie that I will just...
man.
I grew up watching it whenever it was on. So I've
definitely one for the bunker.
Yeah, I've probably seen it 50 times. I could exaggerate and say 100, but that would be an exaggeration. I could safely say I've seen this movie 50 times.
Yeah, one of the greatest joys in life. Well, speaking for myself from my own experience.
Yeah.
To have a son, raise him up, and be able to watch this movie with your son.
Yep.
And turn him onto it.
Yeah.
So then it becomes one of his favorite movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just carries on.
Yeah, because like growing up, like Dad and I would watch this whenever it was on.
Yeah.
So I've for sure, without exaggeration, seen this movie 50 times, and I've probably only seen the very beginning of it like 20, 25 times, like half or less than the times, because it would be like you'd be bored flipping through the cable channels back in the day.
It's on.
And it's like, oh, crap. Oh, we missed the very beginning. Okay, well, still. Yeah, we missed the first 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. But so not only is this movie one of my absolute favorites, it's also kind of not compulsive. It's compulsive. Like I was in the kitchen. Yeah, compulsory. It's mandatory.
Yeah.
I was in the kitchen a couple weeks ago, and usually I bring my phone in and listen to music while I'm cooking. And like I'd already like had something going in the pan and didn't want to leave the stove unattended. And I was like, oh crap, I forgot my phone. And so I just started whistling kind of aimlessly and ended up whistling the tune from this this theme. And it was like, okay, well, like now I don't have to spend 15 minutes while my food's getting cold, going through all the streaming services, trying to find something to
Because
watch.
I know what I want to watch now.
It's just like, all right.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is the theme from perhaps the greatest movie of all time, The Great Escape.
No, man. Classic.
Right.
Did you ever see... Well, yeah. And there's so many things you could jump off from that.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about Steve McQueen a bunch on here already. Like,
yeah. So
just
I have to tell my one story.
Okay.
That you've heard a million times. But like this movie is just so iconic. Like when they were in they did a Top Gear episode where they drove across Eastern Europe and they drove by the place, the actual Stalag Luft, whatever, where like the real story took place. And and like James May, like his car was super slow and kept breaking down. And like that's his favorite movie of all time. And like he didn't get to go for the camp.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So he was all bummed out. But and like Jeremy and Richard were just like not being, goofing around, but like not to the extent, like they weren't clowning around. They were just like, kind of making little jokes. Because like they were still just like, yeah, this is iconic. This is a monument to like Allied badassery and defiance. So they were being as reverent as they could in this like sacred space, which was pretty cool. And then one of my favorite characters of all time, Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
Oh yeah.
There's the episode where Leslie finds out it's his birthday and like plans this surprise party behind his back.
Surprise party, right.
And he's just like dreading it the whole time. And like leaving all these hints and just like making him squirm like the entire episode. And the end of that plot is like he shows up expecting it to be this like surprise party that he knows about. And it's this like empty room with a comfy chair and like a steak dinner and a bottle of Lagavulin whiskey.
Yeah, from his favorite steakhouse.
Yeah. And The Great Escape queued up on a TV. And she's like, yeah, like I'm not gonna like, I love planning parties and like a surprise party is what I want, but I know that's not what you want. So like I gave you your like ultimate surprise birthday.
Yeah,
and it was
like the perfect birthday gift.
Yeah. Bottle of Lagavulin, a steak, and The Great Escape. And it's just like,
yeah,
dude, by yourself.
Oh man.
So my real life story about The Great Escape was I got invited to this Halloween party and the theme was dead celebrities.
I think we told this story on the show already.
We probably did. Why would we tell it though?
I think was it the Halloween episode maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I know we've mentioned this before.
Okay, I'll rehash it as quickly as possible. Because Yeah, the theme was dead celebrities, and it was like all the ideas I came up with, like somebody else was already planning on doing. So I was like, all right, then I'll be Steve McQueen as Hiltz, the Cooler King from The Great Escape. And so it was like, I think I still have the sweatshirt somewhere. But, you know, it's like a pair of like khaki dungarees, some work boots, a like blue sweatshirt with the sleeves cut off, and then like a pair of flight wings pinned inside the collar, and a baseball glove and a baseball. And nobody else at the party besides me and the girl I went with had ever seen The Great Escape or knew who Steve McQueen was. And it was
That's
like,
nuts.
yeah, I think I need better friends.
Oh, man. Yeah, kind of like that quadrophenia thing. Like,
Yeah.
never be so wrapped up in something that you can't tell all the people around you are jerks or assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, you've never seen The Great Escape. No. Do you know who Steve McQueen is? No.
Unbelievable.
Is he a baseball player? It's like, okay. Like, all the dudes here, hand me your man cards and a bottle of lighter fluid, because I'm burning all your man cards right now.
For sure. Did you ever see the Chicken Run movies?
Yes.
Yeah. Those are pretty good. They play up the whole Great Escape thing in those.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the second one too?
Yeah.
The Dawn of the Nugget.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I don't know. Anything that comes out of that Wallace and Gromit camp.
Yeah.
It's like pretty high chance of being pretty good.
For sure. Okay. So probably because I grew up watching like a bunch of these 60s movies, I really just developed a love for several composers, but Elmer Bernstein being one of the main ones. And it's like Elmer Bernstein has written some of the coolest pieces of music ever used. He kind of gets a little samey, but it's like the thing he does best is so good that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they hire him for a reason.
Yeah.
They hire him because he's a known quantity.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, okay, you went to a steakhouse like and got a really good steak. What are you complaining about? So this is arguably his most iconic piece of music. This is Elmer Bernstein. Again, he did The Great Escape. So this is Elmer Bernstein and the theme from The Magnificent Seven.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and it's like...
What a cast.
Right? Yeah, there are so many, like speaking of Navajo blankets, there's so many red threads running through that. Like, yeah, I know that that song got used in some commercial like 20 years ago, but it's like, it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It sounds so good too.
Yeah. Like
back in those days, a lot of people didn't have big hi-fi systems in their home.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people did, but not everybody. And you'd go to the theater and they'd have some big like all-tech voice of the theater horns or Western Electric or RCA. Yeah, and it would just sound amazing. Like those speakers are still unequaled to the stuff they have today. You know, we have more channels and, you know, bigger woofers and whatever, but like the sound is unequaled from those days. That was like before the whole space race and computers and stuff, like audio was technology.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, going to the movie theater was like about as high tech and as like, it was part of the feature was the music and the, the experience of it all.
Yeah.
We're kind of spoiled now. Like, people have home theater systems and you can stream everything, but like, it was an event to go see a movie at the theater back then.
Yeah, and it's like, if you want to feel what Eric is talking about, like, when you have the time, like, find the best copy of that theme that you can get and listen to it through the best audio, like the best headphones or the best speakers, or like, give yourself a treat and just listen to that, like, on the best system that you've got.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so dynamic.
Get a glimpse of
music nowadays, it's all so compressed and there's just explosions and tons of bass. But I mean, I'll take like clarity and dynamics any day.
100%. Yeah. So in case you're wondering what I'm going to do after we record this episode, I'm going to be watching The Magnificent Seven.
Based loosely on the Seven Samurai.
Not even loosely. It's basically just a Western version of Seven Samurai. But
right.
Yeah. So
which is also a great movie.
Yeah. We talked about remakes and rehashes of stuff. And then like Eli Wallach was featured in the playlist already on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And half the guys in The Magnificent Seven were in The Great Escape. Yeah. It's so good. Changing gears, but keeping one of the threads from Magnificent Seven, the cowboy hat. This is Eastbound and Down from Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh man. Another classic.
Yeah.
Jerry Reed's great.
Right? You talking about
what a
how
talent.
You never saw Dirty Dancing back in the day? Because you were too cool. Like, one of my movies, or one of the movies like that for me, was Smokey and the Bandit. Like, I was too young when it came out to see it because there were curse words and lawlessness, scoff laws in it. And then it was like, later in the 80s, like the whole redneck thing was a little passé.
A little tired. Yeah.
A little tired. Like, it had been redone so many times. And then it was just like, I don't know. All the actual rednecks I know are kind of jerks. So, I don't know.
Well, the wannabe rednecks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I never watched that movie until I was probably 30 years old. And it was like, all right, I'm going to watch this movie. And maybe even later, maybe mid 30s. And it was like, dude, this movie rules. Like,
yeah, it's really good.
So good. And then, like,
I just watched it like a year ago with my daughter.
Yeah, same.
And she loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was telling my son, oh, you got to see it. It's really good. It's like, sometimes they'll watch stuff with me and they're just like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. But like, for them to like tell the other one that they have to see it.
Right.
It's like high praise.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why Burt Reynolds is a thing. That's why movies where they wreck a bunch of cars is a thing. That's why truckers are cool. That's why that's cool. That's why that's cool. Like, okay. Like, there wouldn't have been a Dukes of Hazzard if it wasn't for Smokey and the Bandit. Like, it's like the cop and the hound dog and the like oafish sidekick idiot is like, just totally lifted straight off Smokey and the Bandit. Like Boss Hogg, Enos, or like the Smokey and his son. Like, even down to the Basset Hound.
Oh man.
Yeah, and always like getting thwarted by like jumping over a bridge that's out. And yeah, that it's like, oh, okay. Like, I grew up watching later Sally Field movies with Mom. And it was like, okay, yeah, she's a good actor. But it was like, I never really got.
Yeah, she gets kind of typecast, I guess.
Yeah. And I was like, I never really got why some people like saw her as sexy until I saw Smokey and the Bandit. I'm like, dude, like, she's so awesome. Like it's 70s, so there's a lot of like misogyny involved,
Yeah.
and like Burt Reynolds is his character's kind of a prick to her.
Yeah.
By today's standards for sure, and probably even by 70s standards. But it's like both of those actors are just like so charismatic that you're just like, oh man, they're both so cool. Yeah, Smokey and the Bandit. Plus, that song is just super fun.
Yeah.
It tells the story. It's cool. It's got some picking and some grinning.
Yeah. You talk about movies where cars get smashed up.
Yeah.
The first Smash 'em Up movie was a guy that owned a used car lot and just had tons of beater vehicles.
Whoa.
And he made I think it was 1974. He made the first Gone in 60 Seconds, like the original.
Mm-hmm.
And that held the record for a while of like the most cars smashed up in a movie.
Nice.
And so it kind of became a thing to see who could smash up the most cars.
Right.
And Blues Brothers was in the running for smashing up so many police cars, just over the top.
Right.
And another one that was like that was Grand Theft Auto from 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And Grand Theft Auto was Ronnie Howard's directorial debut.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
might have to revisit that one.
Yeah. So Ron Howard tried to make his mark as a director by smashing up a bunch of cars. And I don't know if the game franchise is based on the movie or not, or just the crime, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
probably a little of
the movie
both.
Grand Theft Auto was Ron Howard's first.
I don't think you're supposed to smash up the cars in Grand Theft Auto, but I suck at driving games, so
it just ends up being that way.
Yeah, it ends up being. All right. So, keeping with the rural theme, my next pick is from a movie that I knew I was going to love from the opening credits. That, like, I mean, it was a safe bet going in because it's a Coen Brothers movie. I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, but it was just like, oh man, this is like cozy Coen Brothers. I'm going to be challenged, but like not in a No Country for Old Men kind of way.
Yeah.
And like they had these old timey opening credits with like this pinstriping. And you know how sometimes pinstriping, like signage, has like the little corner cuts, like the little crescents out of the corner.
Uh-huh.
So they would have little illustrations in those. Like it would be like this kind of old timey, like side of a steam engine, like pinstripes. And like in those little corner cuts, they would have little illustrations. And one of the illustrations was a slice of pie on a plate. And I was just like, all right, like 5 stars. Like,
oh man,
it's the opening credits, and it's like, okay. And then the rest of the movie didn't disappoint, never let me down. So this is a scene from the movie. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but thought rather than just include the song, like this scene, like it's pretty awesome. And then again, we're not going to get political, but it holds even more truth these days. So this is the Soggy Bottom Boys from Oh Brother Where Art Thou with Man of Constant Sorrow.
One of the classic lines of all time. Is you is or is you ain't my constituency.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know the term defenestration.
Uh-huh.
The politically motivated act of throwing someone out of upper story window.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah, they
know.
need to bring back the rail.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a term for the politically motivated act of sending somebody up.
Running someone out of town on a rail.
Yeah,
I know what it is in English.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't need
that
to
whole
charge-
movie was kind of responsible for a whole bluegrass revival, kind of.
Yeah, like there have been many bluegrass revivals, but like that one really brought like the
Yeah, that one
brought it
was
forward.
pretty broad.
Yeah,
Got PBS involved and stuff.
yep, yeah. Plus, it was just such a great movie.
Classic.
Yeah, and
Another movie based on, yeah.
yeah, Greek epic poetry.
Yep.
Huh. Yet another thread in this tapestry.
Yep.
Yeah. So one more rural.
Since we're there, we could have played this one first because of Burt Reynolds, but
Yeah,
it all goes together.
it all goes together.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to
It's all Southern.
Yeah, I wanted to ease into this one, let you adjust to the humidity.
Nice.
So this is Dueling Banjos from Deliverance.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, I hear they're putting in a new dam.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Me and some of the guys were going to get together and paddle down that river one last time before we can anymore.
Yeah, or it's all flooded.
Oh, man.
It's our last chance. Yeah, if you've never seen that movie, see it. It lives up to its reputation, but it's also like, it's such a masterpiece of a film in addition to that one scene that you probably know it from. Like the whole rest of the movie is so fantastic. And yeah, it's beautiful the way it's shot, the way it's directed. I mean, it's John Boorman, man. Like if you don't already know who John Boorman is, like look him up and watch all of his movies. Like shouldn't need to explain any further. Yeah, it's so good. And then it's like it basically created the like creepy inbred hillbilly antagonist genre.
Yeah. And back when that came out, that was kind of one of those like the piano theme from The Entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
Like every piano player had to learn that.
Right.
Like Deliverance, when it came out, every guitar player had to kind of figure that little bit out, or everybody that played banjo.
Right.
I didn't really personally know any banjo players. I don't associate with that ilk, but like a lot of guitar players like had to figure out that little that lick.
Yeah, and it's like the song existed before the movie, but its use in the movie was fantastic. Like yeah, it's a masterpiece. Like go see it if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, like watch it again. It's good.
A little bit of a tangent here.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new Scouts?
No, I remember seeing like a prototype image.
Yeah. They're kind of neat, but they're not that neat.
Ew.
They're all electric, which is fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Every vehicle revamp is a disappointment in a way.
Right.
Indian motorcycles, Scouts.
Yeah. See, all I've seen are these concept images. They look pretty good, but like, yeah, they don't look too bad. It just depends. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
like, and
I mean,
electric
Scouts are cool on their own. Electric vehicles are cool on their own, but like the really cool thing about all the Scouts I had was the way you could use them.
Right.
Like what they allowed you to do and where they allowed you to go.
Yeah, because they were just like
how they
simple and like well built.
Yeah.
Like not overly complicated.
Yeah, they weren't going to make you walk home from anywhere. You could go anywhere you wanted to within reason. You could bring the stuff you wanted with you. You could camp out of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that seems kind of defeated by making it electric.
Well, like EV ranges have like gone way up. And then like, I remember the first time I ever saw a Rivian was in Armstrong Woods. Like they were filming like a promo ad in Armstrong Grove. And like we were making fun of it because it's like, oh man, like look at this thing. Like it's so, we just had a chip on our shoulder for like,
yeah.
Okay, well, if you're going to make an electric vehicle, like make it efficient. Like why are you're like,
yeah, like the electric Hummers.
Yeah, or just ridiculous.
That take longer to recharge than what you would actually use them for.
Right. And so it was just like, okay, whatever, Rivian, like more bougie crap. And my friend Mario joked, like one of the park rangers was like, yeah, I don't know, like I'd never seen one of those. Like I wonder how much, like I wonder who could afford one. Like how much are they going to be and who could afford one? And Mario was like, no one local.
Yeah, that's true.
I have seen quite a few of them driving around town. And then again, I think it's only on Apple TV, The Long Way Up, like the continuation of the Long Way Round, Long Way Down series. They decided to do it all with electric vehicles, like electric motorcycles and electric SUVs. And so, like, as much as we were clowning on Rivian the first time we saw them, the very first, like Rivian 0001 and 0002, the first two they ever built were on Long Way Up, and like drove from Tierra del Fuego to Los Angeles, and like contrast that with the Cybertruck and like how it's in full production, and it's like, well, the body panels don't fit, and you need to upgrade it so it won't cut your thumbs off, and like it's still a piece of crap and catches on fire.
The Scouts are supposed to be relatively affordable, whatever that means. I haven't seen a number.
Right.
They're supposed to not be crazy expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the weight of those vehicles, like don't do you any favors off-road.
True. But it's like, yeah, the amount of torque that you can get out of each wheel is pretty impressive. Like those Rivians were pretty, they're not like rock crawlers or anything, but they're like, they're very capable off-road. So it was like, oh, yeah, okay. So if the Scouts are more that and less Cybertruck, where it's like
they're less Cybertruck, but they do have some of those Tesla touches, like any modern car does. The big touch screen and
that's
like the nice place, the nice cabin car and stuff.
Yeah, like Jared's Prius has a big touch screen. Like that's just standard. That way, like that's where all your instruments and like stereo and stuff, that's just your interface, which they easily could have done away with and not had all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty industry standard now these days. But no, like
it's just for something retro to like blend it with the technology. Just seems a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it'd also nice to see something a little more utilitarian instead of like something to take the kids to a soccer game in and pretend you're hip.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like I'll be happy as long as we never have to see an all-electric Scout being pulled out of the sand by a Ford F-150.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's just like it's
can't afford one anyways, so it's all academic. But
yeah, for sure. But that's become a meme. Is the Cybertruck and the Ford F-150? It's like, yeah, it's totally capable off road as long as you know someone with a Ford F-150.
to pull you out.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, F-150s aren't even that great off-road
I
themselves.
know. But it's like,
Yeah.
that's part of the joke.
Oh, man.
Is that it's like they're just vanity pieces of shit. Anyway.
I think that's another theme of us talking about people getting stuck in their 4x4s on almost every episode. Seems to come up. But anyways.
So,
enough on that. But yeah, there's a sweet Scout in Deliverance. It's a Scout 800.
Totally.
And it's a nice gold one. Cool vehicle.
Yep. And you know who is never stuck?
Who's that?
Flash Gordon.
Ooh.
So
one more quick side though. One of my favorite YouTube guilty pleasures is Matt's off-road recovery.
Yep. Mine too.
It's really good. Yeah, watching people that have like flipped their side-by-sides or like went on some trail they had no business being on or rolled in a sand dune or
the first time I saw
thinking they can go anywhere.
Yep.
Now I got to come get you and charge you for it.
Yep. Yeah. The first time I ever saw the wrecker, I was like, subscribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That thing's so cool.
Yeah. Now he's got his kids involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
With the Morvair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're into dorky man stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a steak.
Good one.
Drink some scotch and watch The Great Escape. And then watch some Matt's off-road recovery.
Yep. So good.
And you can get your man card back.
Yeah. There you go.
You kind of dropped a hint about this next one on a previous episode, but it's way back and it was pretty deep.
Probably.
Pretty inside baseball when you dropped it.
Yeah.
But I think you've been thinking about this one. You've had it in your back pocket for a while.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like, like The Harder They Come, like probably more people have heard this song than have seen the movie, but it's debatable.
I would
because
hope.
Like you hear this song and you have to see the movie because it's just like, what even is this? And
yeah.
So Erica and I loved watching movies together. The first song on the playlist from Local Hero, that was one of the movies I made her watch, and she hated it.
Really?
But I was like, but it's so good. And she was like, nothing happened.
Hate that movie.
There was like this whole
stuff happened,
build up, and like nothing happened. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. Like, they were trying to.
It was better that nothing happened.
Exactly.
You were hoping something would happen.
And she was like, but
that was the payoff.
Yeah, I guess. But it was like, no, it's just, like quirky, small town character driven story. Like, it's awesome. It's what's not to like? It was, she wasn't a fan. And so, like, I never got to show her Gregory's Girl because
more of the same.
Yeah. It was like, oh, is that by that same guy? I'm like, but we also need to watch Comfort and Joy. Oh, okay. So
you got to get through all these.
Yeah. So I also showed her Flash Gordon, and she loved it. So
really,
yeah.
Wow.
So this is Flash's theme by Queen from Flash Gordon.
Yeah. Such a classic theme, too.
Good. Yeah, and it's like that movie's so cheesy, but it's just like, it doesn't care. Like, it's just like, no, it's Dino De Laurentiis. Like, it's Italian cheese. It's going to be delicious. Like, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I think the Emperor from The Ultimate Force.
Ultimate Force, yes.
Yeah. I think the Emperor and the Ultimate Force was based on Ming the Merciless.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I still have that on DVD somewhere.
Oh, man.
Because you made me copies of it when you...
Oh, did I?
Or was it you?
I don't know.
Somebody, like, yeah, we got it converted from VHS to DVD somehow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it was like rewatching it like as an adult after Battlefield Earth came out.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, what?
Oh, man.
Like, did Steve Ogden read Dianetics? What's happening?
Oh, man. Yeah, that was such an ambitious project, you
Right?
know? Like, it was cheesy and it was low budget. I mean, it was like no budget. But like to make a full feature length movie and then like have it shown on KFDY
Yeah.
Channel 50. It's part of a film festival thing. And like I thought, oh, I'm just going to help him out and like play one of the lead roles in this or whatever and blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, nothing will come of it and whatever. It'll be fun fun thing to do to keep occupied for the summer.
Yep.
And then like at school the next year, like all these people started coming up to me and like the drama teacher was like, wow, that was really good. You should come out and try out for drama. And all these kids from like, I guess he showed it like in the drama class and like,
Whoa.
so all these kids were coming up to me and like saying, hey, that was pretty cool, you know, or like saying lines from the movie or
Crazy.
I was freaking mortified. It's like,
you saw that? Oh no.
No one was supposed to see that. No.
Well, having seen it within the last 30 years, your part in that, your role, you're a decent actor. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
Because you...
Well, I was a better actor than some of the people.
Everybody else in it. Well, like because you were like the older brother. And like, was it David Royer? It wasn't David Royer. Who was it that played your younger brother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And so like I was watching it with David Royer and he was like mortified at his performance.
Oh man.
But it's like you and David Royer, like your characters come across as like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. Like you come across as like the Han Solo character.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching it and going like,
man,
that's pretty cool. Like Eric's got some swagger.
Well, I had already done like all the Car Thieves movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I knew how
chops.
to. I knew how to move in front of a camera.
Nice.
Oh, I think I talked about like how I had insomnia the other night, and I was thinking about all the things I should have done in high school.
Right.
Like, oh man, if I had a job, like what kind of car would I have bought? Blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so I was like, just kind of running through my mind, like, you know, if you could do the Back to the Future thing, and like there was a couple girls I should have dated and probably could have dated, but didn't because I was just didn't know up from down with any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But one of them was, I don't know if you remember her. She was kind of cute.
Yeah.
But she went to Montgomery High School and she was in Mr. Lynch's class. And Mr. Lynch would always tease her because he knew that we went to church together. Or found out somehow that like we knew each other from church. So he was always like kind of teasing her, you know, like, oh, you should go out with Eric or something. She would blush and kind of smile, you know. So I think she kind of wanted to.
Oh, man.
But it was just one of those things, you know. It's like I probably totally could have gone out with her. But,
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, man. Yeah, so on a similar note, back to Flash Gordon, there was a girl that I went to kindergarten with, and I knew her all the way through high school. And she looked a lot like Princess Aura.
Whoa.
From Flash Gordon. And like never had the balls to ask her out.
Oh man.
Yeah. I almost put one of the songs from Highlander on the playlist, but
yeah,
it's like they're totally awesome, and I love that whole soundtrack too. But it's like just for sheer bombacity, like nothing holds a candle to Flash's theme.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, and it's like, we talked about like some of the female characters from 80s cartoons last week, and how like Baroness was like way hotter than all the female Joes. And so like when I saw Flash Gordon for the first time, it was like, yep, yeah, yeah. Like Dale Arden is like, she's cute, but it's like, whoa, dude, Ming's daughter. All right.
Oh, man.
I'd give up saving the galaxy. Yeah. Anyway. So sticking with the 80s for a little bit. My next pick is Don't You Forget About Me by the Simple Minds, or Simple Minds, from the Breakfast Club soundtrack.
Yeah, another classic.
Yeah, and we talked about like junior high and high school and stuff. And like that movie came out before I was in high school, and I watched it before I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
And so high school was a big letdown for me. It was like, oh, it's just all the awkward, crappy parts without like the growth and self-realization and bonding.
Gnosis.
Yeah.
That movie came out in 1985, which was my senior year, year I graduated. And that song was the song they picked to be our class song or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, Dazed and Confused is how junior high really was and how people really were.
Mm-hmm.
But the Breakfast Club is what people thought they were but weren't, or like how they wanted to be,
right,
or portray themselves, but they like weren't.
Yeah, it's too idealized.
Yeah, that was the guy from Repo Man in there too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one I never watched with the kids because one, it was like not super relevant, and we watched some school shows with them, and it was just they were like, "I'm so glad I don't go to school." Like they were homeschooled from like 3rd grade on or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, so they couldn't relate to it. There's just too much, I don't know, a lot of those movies that guy made, they're just, I don't know, there's something about them.
They're very Chicago. Like,
yeah, but I don't know, like everybody's kind of using each other and doesn't treat each other very well. And, they kind of, like the popular girls just kind of get used and like objectified.
Yeah, it's a very Midwest thing.
What's that guy's name?
John Hughes.
John Hughes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of his films, like, I don't know, there's too much swearing and like the kids are rude to their parents and their parents are just like absent.
Yeah.
Or like only show up like when they get in trouble or something.
Yeah.
Stuff gets destroyed and nobody gets in trouble for it.
Yeah.
No.
Like that's you have yet to describe something that's not Chicago.
Right. But it's like for some people that's like the dream, it's like, oh man, I wish my life was like that, I wish I could be Ferris Bueller or whatever.
Right.
But to me it's like, no.
Yeah.
That's like
Ferris is kind
everything
of everything
I don't like. Yeah.
Yeah. Not even kind of. He's definitely a prick. It's just like,
right.
Yeah. Matthew Broderick is just like so charming. you like him.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Him being a D-bag.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say he's the least bit charming. But like what I was talking about with Quadrophenia, it's like,
right.
Don't get so caught up in like a social situation to where you can't realize that your friends are assholes and you would be way better off not even being around them.
Right. Well, and it's like that's kind of one of the themes of the Breakfast Club is that it's like they're all completely different and from different cliques and have preconceived notions about each other and then like find common ground and like bond.
it's nice when you can find that common ground.
Right.
And I've been in a few experiences where that happened.
Right.
And it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's like, we don't have to be enemies. We could all just be friends and be cool. And
right. Yeah. So the only time I got a glimpse of that Breakfast Club vibe in high school was, I just told this story a couple of weeks ago to Brett and Jared when went on a cruiser bike ride up in Santa Rosa, like riding over to the last record store, which is now called the Next Record Store. The employees bought it and renamed it. Thriving business. Like there were a ton of people in there. It was awesome. And
that's cool.
Yeah, this like iconic record store that's like always been a Santa Rosa institution is like still going, which is awesome. But yeah, we took a shortcut through the Santa Rosa High School campus. And so I was telling them some stories. Like, yeah, first time I ever saw Green Day was right there.
Nice.
Yeah. Interesting stuff from high school. And then like, remember there were those like basement rooms under the main building, which is pretty rare for Northern California. Well, anywhere in California to have basements.
Yeah, to have basements underground stuff. Well, there's actually bomb shelters down there.
Yeah, we used to creep around down there.
Yeah, it was the TA for the art class and the TA for the crafts class.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd store all the clay like way down in there to like keep it cold and moist or whatever.
Right.
So when we were doing pottery, I'd have to run down there and get big old slabs of clay.
Go down to the morgue.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had student politics or whatever. I had some like class that would give me the credits that I needed, but it was like a total blow off class.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much all we did was make posters for like the student body, people running for student body president and stuff, like that stuff, and like the different glee club and stuff or rallies.
Yeah.
Like we'd make posters and signs for rallies and stuff. And so it was like a pretty blow off class. The instructor, like, let us do whatever we wanted. It was totally chill. And it was like, wide variety of kids and not that many kids. It was a pretty small class. And so there was like a boom box down there in the classroom, and he let us bring in music, and we got to listen to, like, we got to play our own music as long as everybody got a chance. Like the next day it would be somebody else's turn to like bring in music. Nobody could have a day where they were playing music until everybody else already had a day or passed.
Got it.
So nobody could like hog the stereo. And so my Breakfast Club moment was like one of the cheerleaders and like one of the super cute cheerleaders asking me for a copy of Bad Brains, Eye Against Eye.
Nice.
She was like, "That's really good. Who are those guys?" I'm like, "It's Bad Brains, Rastafarian punk rockers from Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Although you got to be careful with cheerleaders, because
she was like, "Will you make me a copy of that?" I was like, "Sure."
When I saw a bunch of cheerleaders drive by in a cabriolet Volkswagen Rabbit, and they were blaring Nirvana.
Oh man,
that's the day I knew punk was dead.
Right. You talked about Robert earlier.
Oh yeah.
He had a roommate for a while that drove a Rabbit.
Oh man.
Did I ever tell you this story?
No.
He drove a Volkswagen Rabbit. We would always give him crap about it. And like, dude, you drive
didn't realize it was a chick car?
Yeah. We're like, dude, you drive a girl's car. And he's like, it's not a girl's car. It's just like a, import combat.
They're sporty.
Compact. Yeah.
Volkswagens are cool.
Like nobody else that had like gave him crap about it had been able to like convince him otherwise until I was like, it was like late-ish 90s, like mid to late 90s. And I was like, dude, guys in like lowered Honda Civics like pull up alongside you on the freeway and look pissed off. And he's
they
like,
thought you were a cute girl.
yeah. Well, I didn't add that part. I was just like, do guys in like lowered, like slammed Honda Civics like pull up to you on the freeway, like alongside you and like look pissed off? And he's like, yeah, why? And I'm like, because it's a girl's car.
Yeah, poor guy.
Yeah.
They do get good gas mileage, though.
Yeah.
They're a sensible car.
Yeah.
They were back then.
He was actually a pretty cool guy. Like, I kind of regret that, but it's like
him.
somebody
somebody
had to
do
tell
that
him
to each other, though.
Yeah.
Guys got to break each other's balls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How you talked about when you were in high school and how all the music sucked back then.
Uh-huh.
Like in the 90s, early 90s. I was thinking about that, and it was like, I couldn't remember like why I never felt that way that much during the 90s. And there's bands like Soundgarden, and some of the grunge bands were cool, Alice in Chains and whatever.
Yeah, but they really they hadn't happened until
not by 92.
Yeah.
Well, no, they were doing stuff by then.
They were doing stuff, but they weren't mainstream that early.
Yeah. That's true. And like totally broken out by
Yeah.
The Singles soundtrack hadn't come out yet.
Correct.
Which is when I saw on a ton of lists, like doing research for this.
Right.
Movie soundtracks. It's like, really? Okay, whatever.
It's good.
It's good. But I realized, because the other night I went in and Nena had like a 90s country playlist going on.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, I love this song. Oh, I love this song. Oh, I love this song. Oh, this one's good too. And I realized, like, in the early 90s, I was actually listening to tons of, like, top 40 country.
Oh, man.
We'll do country before too long. But, yeah, I realized, like, oh, yeah, no wonder I wasn't aware of all of the, like, sucky stuff going on in the 90s. You know, I was listening to Bad Brains when their albums would come out, and
right,
bands that I liked and whatever.
Right, same.
And Iron Maiden still. And,
yeah, but the stuff that was popular.
Yeah.
At that time.
But like being at work and like only being able to like listen to the radio or like driving around in a car without a CD player yet.
Right.
Yeah. Like I realized, man, I listened to a ton of country on the radio back then.
Yeah.
And liked a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to convince you that 90s country is
because
some of the best country of all time.
Because that's when I stopped liking country music for like a decade and a half because of all that music.
Oh, no, there's such good stuff. Like it's way better than what's going on now as far as country music. There's some total bangers back then.
Excuse me? And what's going on right now?
In popular country music.
Oh, okay.
In radio country music.
Okay, fair. Sticking with the 80s. And I could have picked Lion off of the soundtrack, but we already talked about it. And it was kind of the elephant in the room during the cartoon theme song episode. This is Stan Bush, The Touch from the Transformers, the movie.
Yeah, man. So great.
Right.
One of my honorable mentions from our very first episode.
Yep.
That would have been on the list, but back then our playlists were like a dozen songs, 6 each.
We thought they were too long.
Yeah, we totally blown that out. But when I was talking about the Wraith earlier, how Ian Hunter and Bonnie Tyler were on there.
Yeah.
There's also a Stan Bush song on there.
Nice. So rad.
One of the AOR greats.
Yeah. So we've already talked about that a bunch. We don't really need to say anymore.
Nah.
We just finally.
But you finally get to hear it for the first time on one of our playlists.
Yeah.
After all the talk.
Yes.
After all the hype.
Yep.
Hopefully it delivered.
Here's another one we talked about already. Sticking with the 80s. This is the Ghostbusters theme song by Ray Parker Jr. Yeah, it's almost in so bad it's good territory.
Oh, man.
Like, yeah, it's so
definitely
great.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Who's hotter, normal Sigourney or possessed Sigourney?
That's a toss-up because, like, there's already an Amazon-sized place in my heart for Sigourney Weaver, like doubly so after, like, seeing some behind-the-scenes stuff from Alien and how, like...
Well, yeah, or I was going to say, or Sigourney in space.
Yeah, she's always been a celebrity crush of mine. She's just awesome. Awesome person, awesome actor. Yeah, total badass. But yeah, I did have a, like, little... That song gets meandering in towards the middle, and it very meandering at the end.
Well, it's like the radio edit / dance mix or something.
I think it's just the full song. Yeah, I did have like a little mid-song daydream about... We talked about you and Tristan wanting to do a reboot of Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And it's like there have been many reboots and rehashes and retellings and sequels and stuff to Ghostbusters. But like if you went back to like the original and remade it, and like what if, I don't know, say Aubrey Plaza, for instance, was the Dana Barrett character, like, and had the possessed scene, the possessed sexually aggressive scene. Anyway, yeah, Ray Parker Jr. It's great. Iconic theme song.
Did you ever see The Truth Seekers on Amazon? Have you watched that one yet?
No.
You should check it out.
Okay.
They're like paranormal investigators.
Cool.
It's pretty good. It's pretty funny.
All right, I'll check it out.
Truth Seekers. Definitely worth a watch.
Okay. So when we played the cartoon version of the Ghostbusters theme song, you mentioned about how it was musically rather similar to a certain Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah, that's right. I did say that.
Which, in its own right, is an awesome song from a soundtrack to an awesome, iconic 80s movie. So, this is The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News from Back to the Future.
Yeah, it's hard to hate on Huey Lewis and the News too much, you know? Like,
too much. Yeah, I mean, they're cheesy, but they're like, I mean, they're so what they are, and they're really good at what they are. Yeah, I remember going to a thrift store one time, and
I'm checking my hand to make sure it's
still there.
Completely here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not turning translucent.
No.
Yeah, fading away. Yeah, I went to a thrift store one time and they had just like stacks and stacks of CDs. And it was like, they were super cheap. And it was like, oh, sweet. I think we were planning on going on a road trip too. So it was like, okay, yeah, we're going to stock up, add some new tunes to the mix. I got Sports.
Nice.
By Huey Lewis and the News. It's just like a fantastic album.
So many hits.
I know. It's like half the songs on that album are hits. Maybe
they were
even more than half.
unstoppable back then.
And I got a few others, but I can't remember what the other ones were. But I think one of them might have been the Magnificent Seven soundtrack. I remember telling Alan, our brother-in-law, that I got Sports by Huey Lewis in the News. He looked at me like I was from Mars or something, just like,
oh man,
why, dude?
There's no redeeming qualities to that.
Yeah. It's like
pop pablum.
Yeah. Okay. It's not the Beatles and it's not Devo. Like,
it's not David Bowie.
Yeah. Sorry, dude. Yeah. Sometimes Jesus.
Before Huey Lewis in the News, Huey Lewis was in a band called Clover, and they were kind of a North Bay band, Mill Valley.
Huh.
But Clover became the backup band for Elvis Costello on My Aim Is True, like his debut album. So like Clover was kind of the original Attractions, you know, like the Attractions were a band that was formed around Elvis Costello, but his original band on his first album, My Aim Is True, which so many great songs came from,
right,
were a bunch of guys from Clover that just happened to be there recording over in England.
Dang.
And Cena and I did see Huey Lewis win a Battle of the Bands at the Phoenix Theater one time.
Rad.
Yeah, it was rad. It's like, yeah, they win. No, like I liked some of the other bands that were there, but it's like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's like these guys are just too good.
Yeah. It was the earlier story I said about how, like, oh yeah, the first time I saw Green Day was right over there. They came to the Santa Rosa High School quad for a Battle of the Bands, and they ended up winning because it's like, yeah, dude, it's Green Day, and it was early Green Day before they became
they were still great back then.
Yeah, before they became their own genre, like Hot Topic.
And you can hate
post-punk.
Green Day or not, but they're cool.
Yeah, yeah. So Huey Lewis in the News.
Also, the bass player from Huey Lewis in the News was Mario Cipollina, and he was the brother of John Cipollina from Quicksilver Messenger Service.
Whoa!
And he was also John Cipollina was also in Zero.
Oh, dang!
Steve Kimmock.
Yeah,
but yeah, enough Bay Area music trivia.
Back to some 80s movies, but a different sort of 80s movie. This is another one of my favorite movies of all time. And I became a fan of this composer because of this movie. And he's done a ton of stuff, ton of iconic stuff. But this is my favorite piece of his. This is the theme from Predator by Alan Silvestri.
Yeah, that's a great soundtrack. Like, it just adds to the intensity of that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the whole thing is good, but yeah, that main theme just has all the pieces in it. And like,
yeah, it just has so much like tension to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's well done.
Yeah, such an awesome movie, such an awesome soundtrack. Like it holds up on its own.
We really grew up in like a golden age of great blockbusters, you know?
Totally.
Just classic movies that have stood the test of time. They're still good.
Right.
Yeah, there's just so many like memes and like cultural tie-ins to them.
Yeah, and it's like there are parts of Predator that are pretty cheeseball.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, like over the top macho and like,
yeah,
stick around. I ain't got time to bleed. You know, all the macho
all the one-liners and stuff. Yeah.
But it's like, you know, that's all there for a reason, to show like, man, these guys are total action hero badasses, and they're just fully outclassed. Like,
yeah, nothing from this planet could like touch those guys.
Yeah. it's not some cheesy like I don't know, like most of Arnold's other movies. Like, it's not like Commando or like
Yeah.
Navy SEALs or, it's not all just like macho fluff crap.
True
It's like,
Lies.
yeah. Well, True Lies was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of great movies.
Yeah.
Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like, like over the top macho badass, like
Right.
Chuck Norris-y kind of stuff.
Richard Marchenko or what?
Yeah. Like all that bluff and bluster stuff. It's like that's all there to like distract you from the fact that it's a horror movie.
Yeah, sci-fi horror.
Yeah, it's not teenagers being taken out by a slasher. It's muscle-bound macho commandos being taken out by a slasher, a masked slasher. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. Predator. What else needs to be said?
Yeah.
Go see it. Go watch it again. It's good.
Well, and like some movies, you don't need to make them too complex, You just set up the premise and just let it roll,
Right. But it's like, that's a rad premise, but it's only a rad premise because of like all the ingredients. If you've ever seen like the behind the scenes stuff where like the original idea with Jean-Claude Van Damme in like the weird little
I've never
lobster
seen that.
Outfit.
Huh.
Yeah. They were like the original plans for the creature were like totally different. And like Stan Winston, one of the greatest creature effects designers ever, was on a flight with James Cameron, and Winston had been tasked with like coming up with revamping the creature design for Predator because like the first one wasn't working, and so Cameron was like, how about something with mandibles? You don't usually see creatures with mandibles. That would be cool. And so Stan Winston sketched out what ultimately became the Predator, became an iconic movie monster.
Oh, yeah. Went up against Alien.
Yep.
What's Jesse the Body Ventura's line in that one?
I ain't got time to bleed. It's the chewing tobacco. And the guy who wrote it, he's like, that's a disgusting habit. And he's like, it'll turn you into a sexual tyrannosaurus.
That's right. Oh, man.
Anyway, yeah, that's a movie that I could like pretty much recite line for line.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of lines in there.
There's not, but it's like every line is just like, it's so good. Like, Billy, what is it? I'm scared. It's like, that's bullshit. You ain't scared of no man. It's like, there's something out there. And it ain't no man. Get to the chopper. Like, that's the one everybody knows.
Yeah.
And then, what's the matter?
Yeah, sometimes
the
less
CIA
is more.
got you pushing too many pencils.
Yeah, sometimes less is more with the macho stuff.
Yeah. Although, that has a lot of the macho stuff in it. So, one thing that I want to bring back up, because it was another thing that I know, like line for line, that intro to the Flash Gordon theme with Max von Sydow as Emperor Ming. Like, I wasn't going to include that, but it's like that actually is the intro to that song on the soundtrack. So it's like, okay, it fits. But that upload omitted one of Max von Sydow's lines because I've listened to that soundtrack and seen the movie so many times. Like that scene, it's like Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today? An obscure body in the SK system. The inhabitants call it the planet Earth. And Max von Sydow says, how peaceful it looks. And then like, will you destroy this Earth? Later. I like to play with things a while before annihilation.
Oh man.
But yeah, he says how peaceful it looks. And it's like all this stock footage of Earth. He blows it up with hot hail.
It's interesting to think he's about to like just destroy the Earth and torment all its inhabitants.
Just for fun.
And that's the second most sinister bad guy that he's played in a movie, villain that he's played in a movie.
Oh, yeah. Iconic lines such as, I could crush your head like a nut, but I won't because I need you. The evil brewmaster?
Yeah.
Yep. I was going to say, well, he was the knight. He wasn't death in the Seventh Seal.
Oh man, that's another great movie. Yeah. He was the good guy in that one.
Yeah, he was the good guy. And I was like,
the protagonist.
No, like he's like King, what's his name? King what's his name from Conan?
Oh yeah.
Like he hires Conan and
that's right,
Valeria to go rescue his daughter. So another movie that started out like John McTiernan directed Predator, directed a bunch of totally like, come on, Die Hard, little movie called Die Hard. Awesome action movie director, John McTiernan. And he started out as the director for this movie, and it had tons and tons and tons of problems in its production. And so Michael Crichton wrote the book that it was based on, and Michael Crichton had directed a few movies. And so he came in and took over the direction of the movie, and it saved it from being an Alan Smithy film, like the fake name for movies that are released by the studio, and the director is like doesn't want his name associated with it. So I love this movie, and I love John.
Oh, it's a great movie,
and I love John McTiernan, even though John McTiernan hated this movie, like didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite.
Why? I guess just because of the headaches involved.
Yeah.
Came out good, though.
Yeah, it came out good. But then it also, like, man, like, we're never going to get to see, like, it was kind of it was definitely a box office flop. So, like,
yeah,
we'll probably never get to see a reboot or remake of it. And then, like, we'll never get to see a McTiernan cut of this movie. So we'll never know what could have been.
Yeah, that was a good movie. It's like interesting story. I'm sure it could have been better than it was, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah, and it's like you talk about like memorable lines. Like that movie had more of an influence on my life than even Predator. Like, you know, Predator's got like the super iconic lines.
Yeah.
But like, you know, none of them really like teach you any kind of like philosophy or like way of being. But, you know,
that's true.
It's all like kind of macho one-liner stuff. Whereas like all of my memorable lines from the 13th Warrior are like, this is how you should be. like I do not have a weapon. Or like, here, you'll need this. He throws him the sword and he's like, I cannot lift this. And Herger the Joyful says, grow stronger. Like, The sword's not the
It's
problem.
simple.
You're the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Just,
movie also has this scene which is interesting that I haven't seen in another movie where he learns their language just by observing them.
mhm.
They're like sitting around night after night, eating, sitting around the campfire, telling stories.
Right.
And like slowly he like starts to understand their language.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I've seen that done in a film to that effect.
Right. Yeah. And it's like,
So,
it always bugs me when like people misunderstand that scene, but it's like they're traveling overland across like huge, like Ukraine, Poland, like all this land. They're like moving overland across, and
yeah.
it's like it's not like they sat down and like overnight Antonio Banderas's character learns how to speak Old Norse. It's like over like months of travel.
Months and months.
Yeah. Like on foot and on horseback and stuff. So it's like I remember Roger Ebert like picking out that scene as like
Oh, brother.
an issue
Yeah.
with it. And it's like, do you
He's
not
the worst
get that it
movie
wasn't
critic.
overnight? Dude, like shut up.
Right.
Shut your cake hole, dude. The only comparable scene I ever saw that he talked about was the scene from Hunt for Red October, where like he's speaking in Russian and they like do a close up of his mouth, like zoom in on his mouth and zoom back out, and he's speaking English. And it was like Roger Ebert just like totally hand waved, like, oh, well, yeah, it was a little weird, but like it was a scene that needed to happen. And like we move along with the, it's like observes this issue and moves past it. And it's like blatant shifting of a language, but you have a problem with like this scene that you didn't understand. Like, you idiot.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, Jerry Goldsmith like wrote some rad stuff.
Yeah, I tried to go a little more song based.
Yeah,
And
I know.
found some kind of soundtracky stuff or like incidental kind of stuff, like the Vangelis stuff.
Right.
It's classic and great.
Yeah,
Well done.
I just got
Or
really
any John Carpenter stuff is great.
Oh yeah, John Carpenter. But like I just really got into like movie soundtrack themes and stuff, like instrumental stuff.
Titanic.
Of course. No. And so like the ones on here, like Elmer Bernstein, Alan Silvestri, Jerry Goldsmith, and one more upcoming. Like, yeah, I'm just such a fan of them. And it's like, okay, I can't talk about music from movies without talking about this. Like,
yeah, my son actually listens to music from video games now.
yeah, there's some really good stuff. I have a few. I have the original Red Dead Redemption soundtrack. I have all of the Mass Effect soundtracks. Talk about Vangelis. Like, there's some cool Vangelis kind of stuff, inspired stuff on there. Yeah, I'll go backwards.
If we were a younger generation, we probably would have had a 5th episode and had video game music and soundtracks.
Yeah.
But I'm just not well enough versed in that.
Same.
I'm sure there's young people out there, like their Spotify is just loaded with that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because there's so much good stuff. Like that's one of the features of modern video games. It's the music for it.
Yeah, it's like you're doing stuff for a living. It's like that's one place you can do it as a musician.
Yeah. Yeah, so just some quick highlights going in reverse chronological order.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Star Trek Nemesis, The Sum of All Fears, Hollow Man, 13th Warrior, The Mummy, Mulan, Small Soldiers, which almost ended up on the playlist. Deep Rising, LA Confidential, Air Force One, Congo, The River Wild, Rudy.
Yeah, it's some heavy hitter stuff.
Rudy.
Oh, man.
Basic Instinct, Sleeping with the Enemy, Total Recall, The Burbs.
Yeah. Isn't Tom Hanks in that movie?
Yep. Hoosiers, Explorers. That may have been the first movie where I noticed Jerry Goldsmith's music. Little movie called Gremlins. Twilight Zone, the movie. Little movie from 1982. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. First Blood. You ever heard of that? Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. Let's see. He did.
That's right.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, the guy's a A-lister.
Yeah.
For sure.
Little movie from 1979 called Alien. Boys from Brazil. Damnation Alley, which if you haven't seen is a B-movie treat. Capricorn 1. The Omen. Logan's Run. Let's see. Chinatown. Little movie called Chinatown. Papillon. He did the theme for the Waltons. Oh yeah, 1970. He had quite a year with Rio Lobo, Tora Tora Tora, Patton. Then in the 60s,
man, what a resume!
Yeah, 1968, little movie called Planet of the Apes.
Whoa.
The Sand Pebbles, Blue Max, Stagecoach, Our Man Flint. Yeah. It's like the dude did.
He's been doing it forever.
Everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the early things, shortly into his career, he did the theme for a little TV show called The Twilight Zone. Yeah. Yeah. Jerry Goldsmith, man.
Quite the resume.
Yeah. So the next one, it was kind of hard to pick just one because this whole soundtrack is all incredible. And this one kind of has all of the things, all of the motifs come back in this piece. So yet another iconic 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. This is The Battle of the Mounds from Conan the Barbarian, written by Basil Polidorus. Yeah, if you ever need some classical music to work out to, Basil Polidorus' soundtrack from Conan the Barbarian, it's a good one.
He used percussion really effectively in that movie, like all the little like chimes and bells and tambourines and stuff. Like it really kind of added to like the Middle Eastern kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Like made it authentic to its like imaginary time and place that it took place in.
The Hyborian age.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so iconic.
Yeah, like some things will like go all synthy or they'll just go like full classical. And that's like classical and operatic and stuff. But like just most of the music throughout the movie just like fits it really well.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Yeah, and it's like when they have those big
that
kettle
place.
drums and like the operatic like little aria kind of things coming in. It's just like boom boom dun 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 dun
boom boom.
Yeah, it's just like so badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you just want to have huge muscles and swing a sword around,
or you want to be a really good surfer.
It's true.
His little sidekick is Jerry Lopez, aka Mr. Pipeline.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool movie placement.
Yeah. His other sidekick is Mako. Oh my God. Like,
Oh, man.
yeah, it's like the ancillary characters in that. Like Sondal Bergen. Like, I always thought she was like weird looking when I was a kid. You know, she wasn't like classically pretty as, you know, coming from like the Molly Ringwald and Sigourney Weaver, like, era that I grew up in. And it was just like, oh, yeah, okay. But it's like watching it now, it's like, dude, she's totally rad. She's super,
It's been a while since
super
I've seen it.
cool. She's super pretty.
Yeah, Molly Ringwald never did it for me.
Yeah, she did it for me.
Yeah.
Kinda, you know, in that like prissy, popular girl kind of way.
Because you could relate to Ducky and you could relate to, what's his name?
Yeah.
In 16 Candles.
Yeah.
It's like, if those guys could get a chick like that, maybe I could too.
Right.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Clark was a hunk.
Yeah.
No looker
I
in
wish.
his young days.
Yeah. I didn't realize
I
it.
went fawning all over him.
It could have been, but I was too awkward.
Yep.
I wore my ducky on the inside. It sounds weird if you don't know what we're talking about. The friend sidekick character from Pretty in Pink, who we talked about in the cartoon episode, talking about the like secondary character, like the co-star that was helping you try to get, helping the main character try to get the love interest they wanted, only because they loved the main character so much that it's like, you know, like Gregory's girl, Ducky from Pretty in Pink, like, yeah.
Oh,
But
man.
like friend, that's like, okay, someday you'll notice how much I love you.
Yeah. Or like Rick Moranis in Streets of Fire. Yes, us Ross men have to like put forth a Conan the Barbarian effort into not being completely introverted and hermit-like.
Yep.
Just being total hermits.
Sad but true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're much more Tom Bombadil than Aragorn. Alrighty. So wrapping out the list, be an interesting bookend to all of this, since it started out with a theme from a Scottish movie. This is not a Scottish movie, but part of what led me to love a lot of these composers and a lot of movies like Elmer Bernstein with The Great Escape and Jerry Goldsmith, Patton, stuff. Like, I watched a whole bunch of 60s World War II movies growing up and in my 20s and stuff. Like, so I was just fascinated by World War II. Patton is one of my favorite historical figures, like specifically because I can't idealize him or like idolize him. I mean, because it's like, on the one hand, he was like a genius. On the other hand, he was like, he had crippling flaws. Like, you know, he was a blowhard. He was, you know, self-aggrandizing and like those,
Yeah.
those are the kind of heroes that I can like learn from. That it's like, well, Aragorn isn't really going to teach me anything because he's perfect.
It's cool that we've learned from history and there's not so many self-aggrandizing blowhards around anymore.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, 60s World War II movies, like, they're always like, you know, a little, I don't know, even like the grittier ones are still kind of like fondly looking back at World War II.
Yeah.
You know, for better or worse, you know, it's like, man, there were some real heroes and like, you know, people did incredible stuff and like made incredible sacrifices like for good.
Yeah, people were just wired differently back then.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I grew up watching Great Escape and The Longest Day and A Bridge Too Far and stuff. And then I watched Patton and Hell is for Heroes, and just all of those movies.
Kelly's Heroes.
Yeah, Kelly's Heroes is I didn't like Kelly's Heroes the first time I watched it. Like
I kind of still don't like
as
it.
an adult, I almost put the song from the beginning of that movie on the playlist just because it's so incongruous.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Why is this in here? But it's like, it's a catchy song and it is what it is. But it's like, it's so cheesy and 70s. And it's like, why is it in this movie? And it's like, once, I've been watching like a bunch of like kind of like bold faced, like hard nosed World War II movies that like took it pretty seriously. And so like Kelly's Heroes is like kind of a caper. It's not even a caper. It's literally a caper. So it was just like, I don't know. This like the tone of it's weird and like the soundtrack is odd. And so like I didn't like it for a long time until it was just like, no, I mean this is chocolate and peanut butter. Like I can't, this is like a genre that I like set in a like time period. It like squeezed into another film genre that I like.
Yeah, but there's so many good classic war movies that like if you're going to spend a couple hours watching something.
Yeah, but it's like Kelly's Heroes is good, man. Clint Eastwood's good in it. Like everybody's good in it, and it's like,
yeah, it does have quite the cast.
Oh, why am I blanking on his name? You were blanking on stuff earlier. Yeah.
Sutherland, Donald Sutherland.
Oh yeah. Well, Donald Sutherland's his character I've grown to love, but no, the insult comic dude.
Telly Savalas.
Yeah, Telly Savalas is fantastic in it. No, the comedian, the insult comic guy.
Oh, Dangerfield?
No.
Oh, Rickles. Don
Rickles. Thank you. That Don Rickles is in it, and he has one of the best lines. Like, yeah, I don't know about you New Yorkers. To you, a hero is some kind of weird sandwich. It's so good. Like, it's a fantastic line. It's so awesome. Yeah. But, like The Dirty Dozen, like that movie's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So, sort of like The Dirty Dozen. Like, The Dirty Dozen is all fictitious, but
I love those ensemble ones.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were showing The Magnificent Seven, I was just like, man, I want to go watch that now.
Yeah, I'm going to. Like, I'm going to reheat my leftovers and watch Magnificent Seven. Like, The Dirty Dozen was like a fictitious suicide mission, and it was kind of loosely based on the same event that this next movie was based on. So this is from The Devil's Brigade. I'm not sure who the composer for this piece of music is. It's pretty old. And The Devil's Brigade, it was an allied command like came up with this mission that had like a high possibility of disaster, of not succeeding, but was still critical to the war effort, and essentially a suicide mission. And for the movie, they played up something that's not historically accurate, but it made part of the plot. Like the Americans, it was going to be a joint American or joint U.S. And Canadian mission. And so because it's a suicide mission, the Americans sent their worst, like all the misfits and the like criminals and the Dirty Dozen types.
The Expendables.
So America sent its worst and Canada sent its best. And so
interesting.
This is the Canadians arriving at this camp in like North Dakota or somewhere. So the Americans are all like ne'er-do-wells and criminals and misfits and jerks and stuff, and you'll recognize a bunch of the faces. They've gotten to this camp in the middle of nowhere for like hard training and blah blah blah. They're complaining about the food and the accommodations and everything. And so they just start fighting. So the Americans are all in the midst of this brawl when the Canadians arrive. So here we go. So this is from the Devil's Brigade from 1968.
How many times have you heard that song?
More times than I can count. Yeah. So Scotland the Brave, like great song. And then just that scene, like it's used so well in that scene. Like you may have
just order versus chaos.
Yeah. And you may have recognized like the American in like the blue uniform with the shaved head was the sergeant from the Dirty Dozen. Like ties in there. But yeah, I remember watching that movie and like they marched there from Canada. That's pretty rad.
Man.
Yeah. They're Stewart and Blackwatch cartons. It's pretty awesome. The kilts reminded me of another thing I wanted to talk about. Like Rushmore and how Rushmore deserves its own episode, I didn't include anything from maybe my favorite soundtrack. Although there are some songs on there that I'm not that big a fan of, but there are some songs that I just absolutely love and have learned all the words to. The soundtrack from The Wicker Man deserves its own episode, I think.
Yeah, we talked about a song from there.
Yeah.
On our Fantasy Dream Band episode.
Was it that one?
Yeah.
Huh. I forgot why we brought it up.
I was talking about Britt Eklund was Rod Stewart's girlfriend at the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, The Wicker Man. That soundtrack is dynamite. I love it. And there's a Robert Burns poem put to music on it. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff to talk about. That's super cool. Ton of fun trivia. Ton of fun songs. Yeah, so did you have any honorable mentions?
Just the ones I mentioned before.
Okay.
Dan Hartman, I Can Dream About You from Streets of Fire. Yeah, like seeing some of your picks, I kind of just went for songs. It's like, I could have dug a little deeper, made it a little more cinematic.
Yeah.
And just,
I don't know. It's all right.
Lion.
And you got
to, but yeah.
No, those are all worthy. Yeah, it's like I had to draw a line somewhere because it's like, I don't know. I got super into like my avenue for getting into classical music was like movie scores and like classical music used as movie scores. So it's like I almost had Blue Danube and Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
From 2001,
Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Great effect. Yeah. Yeah, I just listened to a lot of classical music just as classical music.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to hear stuff used in movies.
Yeah. I do both. Like I listen to some movie scores as classical music, like the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack like stands on its own as like a piece of classical music.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of songs I would love to hear in movies too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that just would like fit a moment so well or like really like get a point across. We might have to revisit this one at a later date.
Yeah, we might have to. And it's like, yeah, there were some where it's like, oh man, yeah, that song totally rules, that band totally rules, but like, I don't know. That movie, I don't know. 'Cause like,
yeah, I had a few of those where it's like, I have to enjoy the movie also.
Yes.
Besides just the music.
Yes.
Like I can't just, oh yeah, that's a great song, or oh man, that was a great theme, but that movie sucked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I want people to be able to visit and enjoy like any of this stuff we've included. Like,
right.
Enjoy the whole package.
Yeah. And it's like you have two ways to enjoy this song.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause like Thunderstruck was used in like Speed 2 or some piece of crap like boat movie.
Well, and like Iron Man and how killer a song is Iron Man.
Right.
But
yeah. And it was used okay in that movie.
Speaking of superhero
but
movies.
Still. And then like Iron Maiden, Billy Blaze era Iron Maiden wrote that song Falling Down for the Falling Down soundtrack. But then they just put it at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it should have been featured a little more, but it's a little too much for Hollywood.
Yeah. And it's like, that movie's great, but it's also like it's pretty rough. Like it's not that enjoyable a movie.
Yeah, it's a little too real life or something.
Yeah.
Just it's like I'm already living it. Why do I want to watch it as entertainment?
Exactly.
I want to watch a movie to help me not think like that.
Right. Yeah. Can I watch a movie where Americans fought Nazis instead of one?
There's great musical moments in movies too, like in Office Space where they start playing that gangster rap stuff as they're smashing up
totally.
the copier.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many picks, but again, we tried to keep it to stuff that you might not be familiar with or, might be familiar with, but need to revisit, like The Touch.
Yeah. And then there was huge ones too that didn't end up on the list for various reasons, like that Aerosmith song that was totally huge from that asteroid movie or whatever.
I don't want to miss a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like totally iconic and like, but it's not going to make the Hear Me Out Bro podcast.
Yeah.
List
it's like
just because of its iconicness.
Yeah. I was such a huge fan of early Aerosmith. And it was like, it's kind of like being like an old school Metallica fan. And it's like, okay, the Black Album is okay, but everything after that, not so much. And it's like for me,
like Sweet Emotion as the opener for Dazed and Confused.
That's what I'm saying. Like early Aerosmith,
you're sitting in a dark theater and you hear the little donkey jaw rattling and oh man, yeah,
like early Aerosmith is like I love it, and then like Pump is like, I mean, some of these songs are okay, but I don't like this direction they're going in. And then it's like everything after that I am not a fan of.
Yeah.
So Aerosmith was kind of the American Queen almost. Like
yeah.
Like they wrote kind of similar stuff.
Well, I think that's all I got for movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go too long. I'm hoping we can whittle things back down to like a manageable level.
Yeah.
There was a few songs on here that probably deserved to get rated.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we'll pick that up after all our specials and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so what's next week's episode?
Speaking of which, yeah, that's right. So February, more specials.
Oh no.
But these will probably be songs we're gonna rate.
Okay.
Because it's not like a thematic special as much as it is like a genre type of specials.
Yeah, or like a time period.
So yeah, we kind of alluded to a little bit of this kind of stuff last week with the Folksmen and some of our Christmas stuff with the Kingston Trio.
Oh, right.
But February is going to be Folk Month.
Ah.
And I know you've been waiting for this one. So our next episode dropping on February 4th, episode 26, will be just straight up folk music.
Okay.
And the next episode for February will be folk rock.
Okay.
So like kind of folk music that's like electrified a little bit, or not just like straight traditional like minstrel-y stuff,
right?
But like rock music influenced by folk music,
right?
And then the week after that will be folk metal.
Nice.
And then to close out February, on the 25th, episode 29 will be, since it's your birthday that week, it's going to be what was popular in 1992,
which we'll just
and
talk
what I
about,
listened to instead.
and we won't listen to.
We'll talk about what was popular,
Yes.
and then we'll listen to what you listened to instead.
Yes. Because it's my birthday. I don't want to talk
So do you
about
wanna-
music that I hate on my birthday.
Folk music.
Yeah.
To kick off folkuary.
Man, are we really calling it that?
Folk February.
February, folk month, February, February, folkruary.
Let's just call it folkuary. It's just
It's like
goofy.
even harder to say. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Maybe you heard something you've never heard before or want to check out some of the movies that we listed.
Yeah, get some ideas to put on your watch list.
Yep. Yeah, and join us next week for the beginning of Folkruary. The first 3 episodes next month will be focused on folk music.
If you have any movie theme or soundtrack favorites, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty we've overlooked and ones we didn't include, but we'd love to hear yours too.
Yeah, totally. Alrighty. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Checking out music with my bro. Willing to dig it, yes or no? Here we